My name is Evelyn Sterling, 36 years old. Just recently, I completed my retribution against my husband, Theodore, for his infidelity. Theodore and I married 2 years ago. We were blessed with a son, Samuel, and I thought we were leading a happy, stable married life. Until a phone call from an old colleague changed everything. There's a chance that Evelyn's husband and Rebecca are in a relationship. Rebecca was my supervisor at my former job, and she had always been a great help to me. What? No way. Samuel is only 10 months old. And Rebecca, she knew he was my husband and still pursued him. This must be some kind of mistake. But when I checked my husband's mobile phone, the evidence was undeniable. Photos of the two of them together, text messages arranging dates. Unfortunately, they were clearly having an affair. And to make it worse, they were even planning their next getaway. I got a 3-day break next Thursday. Let's go on a trip. Wow, really? That's amazing. Where are you taking me? How about my family's cabin in the Adirondack Mountains? A cabin? So you're telling me being a VP comes with its perks? Wait a minute. The cabin in the Adirondack Mountains. That's my dad's cabin. My father, Raymond Sterling, runs his own company. And Theodore, being his son-in-law, had just been promoted to vice president a year ago. What about Evelyn? What will you tell her? I'll just say it's a business trip in my postpartum protective state. It was unbearable to think that two people I trusted could betray me like this. The shock was quickly turning into anger while I was struggling with the new challenges of motherhood. He was off enjoying an affair. Absolutely not. I wasn't going to settle for a simple settlement. I was going to make them both pay. Fueled by rage, I began to devise a plan to bring both of them down to their knees. Just then, my dad contacted me out of the blue about the cabin. Evelyn, hey, are you planning to visit the cabin in the Adirondacks soon? Huh, the cabin? Why? What's up? Well, the property manager mentioned that the last storm messed with the electrical system. The breaker outside is a bit touchy. Just thought I'd give you a heads up. That's it. The perfect stage for revenge was set. My dad's cabin. Yes, I decided I would turn it into a haunted house of sorts. A place to teach those two cheaters a lesson they'd never forget. The next day, I dropped off my son and headed straight to the Adirondacks. I stocked up on hidden cameras, recording devices, even a wig or two for good measure. On the way back, I stopped at a car rental shop. The preparations were complete. On the big day, I explained everything to my sister Lydia, and she and her family agreed to help me out. Finally, the day of their romantic getaway arrived. As planned, Theodore told me, heading off on another business trip, and left. Business trip? Right. He'll regret betraying me. With a mix of irritation and thrill, I watched the footage from the hidden cameras I'd set up, but strangely, no one showed up that day. Oh, that's strange. Did they change their destination? But when I checked again the next morning, they were there. It seems they arrived at the vacation house in the middle of the night. I quickly called my sister and arranged to meet at a convenience store near the house. 7 p.m. We were on standby, ready for whatever might come. When I checked the camera feed, I saw them in the kitchen, happily making something together. That guy never lifts a finger to wash a single dish normally. But now, making dinner together, and from the looks of it, they're snickering about something. But what? I turned on the audio feed. Haha, really? The chairman's getting old. Huh? He's just an old fossil. He should keep his mouth shut. Heh. Huh? Excuse me. Were they talking about Dad? And Evelyn, she has no clue. All she does is nag. She's annoying and a complete nuisance. She never even notices how much I can't stand her. And to think, she hasn't figured us out yet. Oh, I've noticed. All right. If she wasn't the chairman's daughter, I'd never have married her. Heck, what? Are you serious? Did you really say that? What does that even mean? So our marriage was part of his plan all along. Unbelievable. Absolutely, disgustingly unbelievable bastard. I couldn't bear listening any longer and felt an immediate urge to start my revenge plan. But knowing I was cooking, I turned off the audio to avoid a dangerous distraction. I kept holding back as best as I could. Finally, they finished cooking, and the two of them sat down at the table. The camera showed them laughing and talking over wine during their meal. But as a final bit of mercy, I waited until they finished eating. As they washed the dishes, I decided it was time to start the first part of my plan. Lydia, go ahead, I whispered into the walkie-talkie to my sister waiting nearby. Click. Wow, Rebecca shouted the moment the lights went out. Oh, did the breaker go off? So dark, I'm scared. Oh, a woman over 40 trying to sound all sweet and scared. It was honestly nauseating. Scared? Don't worry, I'll protect you, he said with that cringe-worthy charm. Seriously, what does he think he's some kind of hero? I heard from Evelyn that the outside breaker can go out sometimes, so that must be it. I'll go reset it. Wait right here. Yes, this breaker trick was just a little entertainment, after all, and I made sure to tell him about the breaker beforehand to keep them from leaving over something so small. Wait, Ted, I can't stand being alone in this darkness. I'm coming with you. Yay, this way I could spook them both at once. The outdoor breaker was behind the utility pole out back, and to get there, they'd need to walk through an overgrown patch of bushes. That's where I'd set up my little surprise. Wah wah. Honestly, anything would have done, but I chose a crying child sound recording, something ghostly to add a haunted house vibe. What? I turned the volume up and played it again. Wah wah. Eek. You're hearing that too, right? Ted, I can't. I don't know what that is. Rebecca clung tightly to Theodore's arm, looking like she was about to burst into tears. Let's just go already. Hey, how about we skip the cabin and get a hotel room tonight? I seriously can't handle this. Yikes, this is getting a bit too real. Like I said, this was only supposed to be a bit of harmless fun. It would be meaningless if they just left now. In a hurry, I played the sound of a cat meowing, just as I had prepared. Meow meow. A cat. Really? But it did sound like a baby's cry. Meow meow. There, see? Oh, you're right. Wow, that scared me. Becky, you're adorable when you're scared. Oh, stop it. I'm embarrassed. What is it with these two? They're so nauseating I could literally throw up. But my revenge is only getting started. As soon as they got back to the cabin, they said, we should take a bath before the breaker goes out again. Might as well share. It'll save time too, right? Heh. Oh, you, Ted. Hee. They giggled, starting to flirt. I hadn't set up a hidden camera in the bathroom, but their voices echoed so loudly they could be heard all the way outside. By the way, I'm a bit of a clean freak. Hearing other people's private, intimate activities makes me feel so grossed out I could gag. So, instead of feeling jealous of their mood, I was genuinely close to throwing up. Yep, I can't take this anymore. Oh, Lydia, it's time for Operation Number 2. Sure. We waited a moment to activate the trick. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Oh, I hear it coming. From a distance, I could faintly hear laughter. That's the laugh of my 5-year-old nephew, Cody. I couldn't help but laugh, imagining him running toward us, laughing the whole way as we'd instructed. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. It seemed a couple's heavy breathing stopped. Have they finally noticed the sound? Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Whoa, what's that? Hold on. Stop it, please." Rebecca was so terrified, she didn't utter a word. "Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Stop it, please." Bang! Cody stopped right in front of the bathroom window and slammed his little hands against the glass. Ah, eek. Since this cabin has a raised foundation, they couldn't see Cody's face through the window. All they could see were a child's hands, along with the sound. Ah, ah, whoa. While they're genuinely freaked out, thud, splash, creak, along with their screams, I heard them scrambling out of the bathtub. What was that just now? How should I know? Do you think? Maybe this place is haunted? I don't think so. We've stayed here a bunch of times, and nothing like this has ever happened. You don't think so? So that was a baby's cry after all, wasn't it? No way. That was definitely a cat. I'm sure of it. Wait, which means maybe we're just overthinking again. Maybe it's just a local kid. A local kid. Up here, in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, right. Wait, hold on. There's a campground nearby, isn't there? With that, Theodore opened the window to look out toward the campground. Oh, this could be bad. Look, I knew it. I see lights over there. Must be a kid who came from that campsite. By the way, the lights at the campsite were actually from my sister's family. Not wanting to make my brother-in-law wait in the car the whole time, I had gone ahead and bought some meat and other foods for them to enjoy a barbecue. Oh really? Why does scary stuff like this always happen when we show up? Haha. Well, maybe a little thrill is good every now and then. What is this guy talking about? Honestly, he's such an idiot. I couldn't tell if the second trick worked or not, but the plan was far from over. After that, the two of them went straight to the bedroom. They took a bottle of wine and some glasses. Yikes, Dad would absolutely lose it if he saw this. You see, this bedroom is the master room meant solely for my parents. It's equipped with my dad's prized home theater system, and even I'm rarely allowed inside, especially not for Theodore to use it for something like cheating. Though Dad has always said we're welcome to use the cabin, he's made it very clear the bedroom is off limits, and Theodore knows that too. Just as I expected, Theodore messed around with the home theater, and the two of them started watching a movie. Oh no, I really hoped I was wrong. Thank goodness I set up a hidden camera just in case. And then it happened. Click. The lights went out. This time, it wasn't one of my pranks. It seems the breaker really tripped. Caught off guard, I panicked and switched from the camera to the listening device. Dad had warned me that this might happen, but I completely forgot because of these two. I focused on the sounds coming through the bugging device. Are they getting intimate? Are they really not going to turn the power back on? As I scrambled, I decided to move on to the next plan, Operation 3. I quickly grabbed my hidden props and moved beneath the master room window. So, these props. It's a long broom with a white sheet and a long-haired wig attached to the top. Yep, I made a ghost figure. I was honestly worried, thinking it might look so bad they'd see right through it. And I was nervous, up until the last second. What if they find out? This would be so embarrassing if they realized it was me. But contrary to my fears, these two fell for it so easily, was almost satisfying. In the darkness, relying on moonlight, I raised a ghost figure high enough to be visible through the master room window. Here we go. This thing is heavy. I shone a flashlight with red cellophane over it. The red cellophane helped dim the light so that it spread faintly, giving a hazy, eerie glow. But then, a problem arose. The broom holding the ghost figure turned out to be heavier than I expected, and just as I turned on the flashlight, my hand holding the broom couldn't handle the weight, and it collapsed. Well, what was that? Oh no, I quickly turned off the flashlight. Huh, what's wrong? Something just glowed faintly. Huh, glowed. It's pitch black. Yay, it's gone now, but just now. I swear I saw it. And with the light, something flew past, too. What was that? Something from the home theater. The breaker's out, though. Then maybe it was a plane or something. A plane. Anyway, let's get back to it. They didn't notice. All right. This time, I need to be extra careful. I lifted the broom again, this time firmly bracing it against my side so I wouldn't wobble, and shone the flashlight ahead. Oh, what is it? Gaw, what the heck is that? I shook the broom just a bit to enhance the fear factor. Eek. Is that Typhon hair? Yo ID is. Eek. There it is. Gaw, it's a ghost. Ted, let us LEDs get out of here. Yes, it's here. Lydia, they're heading your way. Get ready. Got it. I could hear the frantic footsteps from the listening device as they rushed down the stairs. From the sounds, they didn't even have time to put their clothes back on properly in their hurry. I could hear them racing down the hall and the front door opening. But waiting for them there was. Whoa, hold on. Thud, squish. The door slipped, crashing down and crushing something in the process. And that something was a week's worth of banana peels, and my beloved son Samuel's soiled diapers, plus our dog Rocky's waste, all carefully saved up. Ever since I came up with this plan a week ago, I had been eating 10 bananas a day, saving all the refuse. Even double-bagged in the garage, the smell had seeped through, and just yesterday Theodore had asked, "Hey, the garage smells awful. Why haven't you taken out the trash? Why haven't you taken it out?" Is that his way of saying it's not his problem? Does he have any idea how hard it is to carry multiple bags of trash while holding a baby? Those trash bags, full of diapers soaked in pee, are so heavy they nearly pull my arms out of their sockets. I held back my anger and replied, "Well, it was raining last trash day. I can't exactly carry a baby and a bunch of bags and hold an umbrella, can I?" Never in his wildest dreams would he guess it was part of a little revenge. This was not only for his infidelity, but also punishment for leaving all the housework to me as women's work. Come to think of it, he hasn't lifted a finger for child care, either. In these past 10 months, Theodore has never changed a single diaper. Even when he's playing with our son, he'll just call out, "Hey, he needs changing," and leave it to me. We both brought this child into the world. Yet Theodore shows no interest in him at all. But if our marriage was all just part of his game, just thinking about it made me feel sorry for Samuel. So this revenge was for our son, too. Serves you right, humph. Ted, are you okay? Yay. Hurry up. Yay. Theodore responded, sounding a bit bewildered, having no idea he'd slipped in something so filthy. The two of them jumped in the car and sped off. Oops, looks like the inside of the car is going to stink to high heaven. By the way, there's only one road leading from the cabin back to the main road. I had my sisters waiting at this spot right before it met the main road. My sister's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. "Evelyn, I see the car headlights." Theodore, speeding down the road, must have spotted my sister's truck and started to slow down. The truck was one we'd rented from a local rental shop. It's a bit hard to picture, but the scenario is set so that a woman's ghost holding a baby appears from behind a man slumped over the driver's seat in a truck. I asked my brother-in-law to play the truck driver and my sister to play the ghost. My sister and her husband went to Party City in high spirits, buying fake blood and fangs, as though it were Halloween, even though it was off-season. At this point, it was unclear if they were ghosts, zombies, or vampires. A chaotic mess. We had already planted a listening device in Theodore's car. Shit. Why is there a truck parked right here? And sideways too. I can't get through. Is anyone here? Who knows? Honk. A loud honk echoed through the mountains. Huh? Is no one there? Wait. Look, isn't that a man? Is he asleep? He slumped over the wheel. Right. What? Wah. Ah. Eek. I later found out that my brother-in-law had really fallen asleep, exhausted from the barbecue, and my sister, bored alone in the car with Cody asleep, decided to play a baby's cry over the speakers. This apparently sent the two into a panic. Clutching a baby doll, my sister sat up. She reportedly gave a creepy smile towards them. Gaw, enough, stop it already. Wah wah. And for the final touch, I removed a broom wig and sheets and dressed up as a ghost myself. I slowly approached from behind Theodore's car, flashing the light of the flashlight. Rebecca was the first to notice. Wait, what is that? That's the light we saw earlier. Right. Whoa, hold on a second. In front was my sister disguised as a ghost. Behind was me dressed the same. And on both sides, the forest surrounded Theodore and Rebecca, leaving them no way out. They must have been terrified, probably enough to wet themselves, and almost completely naked at that. This can't be. It's a dream, right? Yes, that's it. We're dreaming. We must be in a dream. Right. This has to be a dream. When we wake up, we'll be in bed, I'm sure. They were genuinely terrified, which was hilarious. Seeing how perfectly our plan worked, I got more enthusiastic, making sure to flash the light dramatically. It was truly ridiculous. From the outside, it looked like a nearly naked couple desperately crying out for help. I knocked on the car window. Knock, knock. Whoa. The two were too scared even to look my way. Theodore, Rebecca. Wait. Is that Evelyn and Lydia? Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was going to die. I thought it was a ghost. What are you doing here? Excuse me. Evelyn. Oh, thank goodness. What are you doing here? That's what I should be asking. What are you doing here? Well, you see. And you, Rebecca. What are you doing? This is a business meeting. A business meeting. Almost naked. Anyway, the real horror is about to begin. Now, back up the car. Please, give me a break. I'm exhausted. Exhausted. Do you have any complaints? No, none at all. All right, then take the car back to the villa. Theodore and Rebecca reluctantly returned. But of course, I couldn't let them just waltz into the villa. I grabbed a garden hose, and, as they got out of the car, sprayed them with water. Oh no. Cold. What are you doing all of a sudden? Haven't you noticed anything? What are you talking about? Your whole body reeks. What? Theodore, remember when you fell while running away? Yeah, that was because of a banana peel. A banana. I slipped on a banana peel. And by the way, there was a week's worth of Samuel's poop and Rocky's droppings scattered around. You're covered in it. Are you serious? Your precious car is probably smeared in it too. What? My Porsche. All the trash in the garage was for this. Evelyn, this is way too much. Cheating on me and you still have complaints. If you'd thrown it away back then, this wouldn't have happened, would it? And by the way, Rebecca, maybe you have some on your feet too. What? No way. I'll leave this body soap here for you to clean up. I'll grab some clothes from the room. Once you're dressed, come inside. All right. Whoa, there's more. So are you complaining about something? No, nothing. I'm sorry. Reluctantly, the two of them went inside, and I pressed them for answers. Theodore and Rebecca, I can't believe this. No, we were really just discussing work. Yes, yes, it's true. Do you think I can believe that? Theodore, let's start with you. You wouldn't have married me if I weren't the CEO's daughter, right? And didn't you call my dad an old fossil? Wano, that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Didn't you also say my vacation home? Or no, that was just. Oh, really? Don't flatter yourself. This is not your place. It's my dad's vacation home. Who do you think got you promoted to VP? Before marrying me, you were just an entry-level employee, remember? And now it's your vacation home. You must be kidding. So it was Evelyn's father's property. Rebecca, you also said I think of Evelyn as a sister. And then you tried to seduce my husband. I'd heard rumors from your previous company about sleeping with men for business benefits, but trying it with your former subordinate's husband. Do you have so little self-respect? And you strut around preaching what sales is all about. How absurd. That's cruel. In a way, you two make a fitting couple, a scummy couple. All right, Evelyn, I understand why you're upset, but let's leave it at that. Theodore and that woman will be held accountable by Walter and me. Dad. Wait, what? Chairman. The chairman. With my father's sudden voice, Theodore and Rebecca looked around, visibly anxious. Where is he? Did you see the footage? I'd explained everything to my dad, even that I'd had security cameras set up here for him to review at night. It wasn't clear exactly where he'd been watching from, but from his tone, it seemed he'd seen quite a bit. You were watching. Cameras. Oh, it's true. Hidden cameras. These aren't just hidden cameras. They're security cameras too. You used my father's master suite without permission and engaged in inappropriate acts on his bed. Theodore, you were promoted to VP because you were Evelyn's husband. But since Evelyn is moving forward with the divorce, your VP position is no longer necessary. You can choose to return to an entry-level position or leave the company. I can't say what the other employees will think of such a demotion. Chairman, please, no. Evelyn, please don't divorce me. You there. As a father, I have to say this. My precious daughter, who I didn't want to give to any man, I entrusted her to you. I may be at fault for not exposing your true nature, but you didn't just betray Evelyn, you used her. If I had been there, I might have resigned as chairman just to knock some sense into you. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. And Rebecca, is that right? You're an employee at Blue Wave Trading. Yes, I can't make any decisions about your consequences, so I'll ask Walter Sterling to handle it. What, Director Sterling? Yes, Sterling. If the rumors Evelyn mentioned are true, this is a serious matter for our company too. We'll conduct a thorough internal investigation and make a final decision on your situation. Yes, Walter was there too. Oh, just by chance. I was visiting Raymond on another matter and ended up staying through this, but since it's related to our company too, it was necessary. Walter Sterling is my father's younger brother. By coincidence, he's now the director at the company where Rebecca works. Oh, and one last thing. While Evelyn will likely seek compensatory damages from the two of you, I'll be billing for the cleaning fees for the vacation home. That's all. We're leaving now. Later, the divorce mediation went smoothly, and my divorce from Theodore was finalized. Thanks to the evidence from the hidden camera footage and recordings, it went in my favor. From Theodore, I received $60K in compensatory damages for the affair, and he agreed to pay monthly child support until Samuel finishes college. Rebecca, too, paid $40K in compensatory damages in a single payment. Following this, Theodore left my father's company. Or rather, he was effectively fired. It was clear he only held the vice president position due to his marriage to the president's daughter, so there was no chance for him to get a high-ranking job at any other firm. This was the ultimate consequence of his ambition, solely focused on power. I also heard about Rebecca from a former colleague of mine at that time, Evelyn. Can you believe it? The company is buzzing with rumors. Things have really blown up since that incident. It appears a thorough internal investigation has been launched against Rebecca. The rumors were true. She had been engaging in relationships with men for business gains. This isn't going to end with just a dismissal. According to a follow-up from Walter, Rebecca faced a minor fine for actions detrimental to the company's reputation. Meanwhile, Theodore had his beloved Porsche, soiled and damaged, detailed, but with the division of assets. He was left with only 20% of our joint finances. Add to that the compensatory damages to me, child support payments, and a vacation home's cleaning fees. And he couldn't afford the high detailing cost. As a result, he went from a company's vice president to a debt-ridden bum. But well, he brought it all upon himself.
Rebecca will be living with us from today. Actually, we're dating. Matthew, my husband, declared to me with a grin. I got a boyfriend and a housekeeper. And of course, by housekeeper, I mean you. My mom Rebecca draped over Matthew's shoulder, laughing at me mockingly. How could they say such things so nonchalantly in this situation? I had just received word that my family home had completely burned down and had gone to see it. I was extremely shocked that the home filled with memories of my late father was gone. However, in contrast to me, my mom seemed unfazed. Even though her own house had burned down, I felt something was off about how she didn't seem sad at all. But I never imagined that as soon as Matthew brought her home with him, they would spout such ridiculous nonsense to me. As I stared at them in disbelief, Matthew laughingly said, "Too shocked to even speak?" Completely missing the point. "You must be caught off guard that Rebecca and I are dating." He laughed. "We're so in love." "Sorry, but I'll be living here starting today, so as the housekeeper, you better take good care of me too. For starters, I want steak for dinner tonight." At her words, I couldn't help but spit out, "Disgusting. The nerve of you two." I don't usually use such harsh language, so the two of them looked surprised. "I already knew about your relationship. I have proof, so I'll be suing you for damages." My name is Katie. I'm a 35-year-old sales rep at a major trading company. I met my husband Matthew, who is a web designer, through work. He was a very dedicated worker with flexible thinking. As I grew to respect him, I also wanted to get to know him better, so I boldly asked him out to dinner. When I was with him, I felt I could be my natural self, which was very comfortable. From there, our relationship progressed smoothly. Then, about 2 years into dating, he proposed and we decided to get married. "Katie, let's get married. In my life, I know I'll never meet a woman more amazing than you. Will you stay by my side forever?" He doesn't usually say such cheesy lines, but this time he said it with an embarrassed smile. His voice trembled a bit, likely from nerves. "Of course. I feel the same. I'll never meet or love anyone more than you. Let's get married." I accepted his proposal with words overflowing with just as much love. Soon after, he came to my family home to greet my mother. My father had passed away from illness 5 years ago, so my mom lived alone. At 58, my mom is such a beauty that she's mistaken for being in her 40s or even 30s. Not only is she beautiful, she puts in the effort to look young. With luxurious eyelash extensions, vivid pink lipstick, her long beautiful hair perfectly curled, and wearing a miniskirt, no one would think she's 58. Mom has always been gorgeous, so whenever classmates would say things like, "Whose mom is that? She's so pretty." At school events, it made me happy too. But when they found out she was my mom, my classmates would make a fuss. "You don't look alike," which depressed me every time. It's true I don't resemble my mom. If anything, I take after my late father. He looked nervous as he deeply bowed his head and greeted my beautiful mom. "Nice to meet you. I'm Matthew. It's a pleasure." After looking Matthew up and down, Mom's face broke into a huge smile. "Matthew, don't be so nervous. I'm Katie's mom. Now, let's all have some coffee." "Matthew, don't be so nervous. I'm Katie's mom. Now, let's all have some coffee." Mom spoke in an even higher pitch than usual as she showed Matthew to the living room. "Yes. Thank you so much." Mom seemed relieved by Matthew's welcoming attitude. The three of us gathered around the table, but for some reason, Mom sat next to him. I ended up sitting across from them, and I couldn't help but voice my displeasure to Mom. "Hey Mom, why are you sitting next to Matthew?" "Oh, what's the big deal?" It's easier to have a heart-to-heart conversation when you're sitting next to someone rather than across from them. After all, he's going to be my precious daughter's husband, so I need to get to know him well. Mom smiled broadly. Matthew seemed a bit perplexed. "Katie, I'm fine with this," he said. "See, Matthew says it's okay too." As she spoke, Mom linked her arm with him. "Hey! Don't link arms with him. You're making him uncomfortable." "Geez. It's not a big deal." "Katie, you're so fussy." Mom unlinked her arm reluctantly, puffing out her cheeks. "Matthew, Katie has always been a nag. She gets angry so easily." "Katie, I'm totally fine." Matthew smiled at me reassuringly. Afterwards, the three of us talked while drinking coffee, and Mom was in a good mood the whole time. "Matthew is so wonderful. I'm so happy that Katie is marrying such a handsome man." Mom kept casually touching him. She didn't link arms with him again, so I didn't scold her every time, but I felt an uncomfortable, uneasy feeling. As the greetings were coming to an end, Matthew said in a formal tone, "I'd like to pay my respects to your father's photo, if that's all right." "Oh, how sweet. The photo is over here." Mom happily showed him to the photo. She was impressed by his politeness. "He's so well-mannered," and seemed to really like him, saying, On the way back from my parents' house, I apologized to him for Mom's behavior. "Matthew, thank you for today. I'm sorry Mom kept touching you so much." No, it's totally fine. I'm relieved that your mom is such a friendly person. I think we'll get along well from now on." I was worried that he might be fed up with Mom's overly familiar attitude, but when he said that, I felt relieved too. The following week, we went to his parents' house for a family meeting, and we were able to get married without any issues. We finished moving into our new home and started our newlywed life. Although we were spending our days smoothly, there was one thing I felt guilty about towards him. My job required frequent business trips, so I often had to leave home soon after getting married. I felt guilty about leaving the housework to him, who worked from home, while I went on business trips, but he supported my work without a single complaint. I'm not good at housework, but since Katie usually does most of it, I have to do my best at least while you're away on trips. When he smiled and said that, I truly felt that I was glad I married him. Then one day, when I came back from a business trip, there was an unexpected person there. "Welcome back, Katie. The stew will be ready soon, so let's all eat together." I already made the salad and put it in the fridge. Oh, I didn't expect you're here. That's right. The person stirring the pot and smiling brightly was my mom. Matthew said it was hard for him to do all the housework alone, so Rebecca came all the way here to help out. I'm really grateful, he told me happily, sitting comfortably on the living room sofa. All right, the stew is ready, so let's all have dinner. With that, Mom set the table with salad, cream stew, and baguettes. The delicious smell made my stomach growl. Mom, thank you. Let's eat. I thanked Mom and dug into her home cooking. It had been a while since I tasted Mom's cooking, but the familiar flavors filled my heart with warmth and satisfaction. Rebecca, this is amazing. I could eat this forever. Matthew also praised Mom's cooking, and Mom looked delighted. After the three of us enjoyed a pleasant dinner together, Mom said, "Oh my, look at the time. I should get going then." She started to head out. Mom, thank you for today. Oh, don't be so formal. I'll be back to cook again soon. When I expressed my gratitude, she smiled happily. From then on, every time I went on a business trip, Mom would come over to help out with the household chores. I was grateful to Mom, but suddenly Matthew's attitude became strange. It happened on a typical morning, just like any other. As Matthew and I were having breakfast and I was washing the dishes, he abruptly told me, "Katie, why don't you try growing out your hair and curling it? Your current style kinda lacks femininity. It's like you don't have any appeal." What? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? I was shocked because it was the first time he had said something like that to me. I'm just saying, Katie, you kinda lack sex appeal. Your makeup is so natural too. Can't you glam it up a bit? I don't really like wearing heavy makeup. And I prefer my hair on the shorter side like it is now. I tried to answer calmly. But he laughed mockingly. Humph, I can't believe someone as beautiful as Rebecca has a plain daughter like you. What? I couldn't believe my ears. I never imagined the day would come when he'd say something like that to me. Why would you say something so cruel? Why are you comparing me to Mom? I asked, my voice trembling. I'm just stating facts. He spat out those words and retreated into his room. From then on, he constantly made comments comparing Mom and me. No matter how much I told him to stop, he wouldn't listen. Gradually, I could feel my love for him fading. Then one day, I returned home from a 3-day business trip to find Mom had come over to cook again. Katie, welcome back. We're having fried chicken today. I was thankful that Mom was coming to help with chores, and I appreciated it. However, lately Matthew had been making so many comparisons between Mom and me that I was starting to feel resentment towards Mom bubbling up inside me. Mom, you came again today. Thank you. I expressed my gratitude as usual, not letting the unpleasant feelings swirling inside me show. Mom smiled at me kindly, but Matthew sighed softly when he saw my face. Oh, you're back already. I could feel my heart turning cold at Matthew's words, but I pretended not to hear and went to put my bags in the bedroom. As I looked down at the floor, I suddenly noticed a long strand of hair. I picked up the hair and muttered, "Why is this in the bedroom?" My hair was short, and Matthew had short hair too, so it clearly wasn't ours. Instantly realizing it was Mom's hair, I quickly returned to the living room. Hey, I found a long strand of hair in the bedroom. This is Mom's hair, isn't it? Why was it in the bedroom? I asked Mom and Matthew, trying to appear as calm as possible. They both looked surprised for a moment, but then Mom burst out laughing. Oh my goodness, you're right, that's my hair. It must have fallen out when I was cleaning the bedroom today. Yeah, she cleaned the bedroom for us. You should be grateful. Matthew chimed in, agreeing with Mom. I felt uncomfortable with my mother entering our marital bedroom, and I couldn't help but suspect their relationship. However, with Mom helping out with the household chores, I couldn't bring myself to question them further. Around this time, my jewelry and bags kept mysteriously disappearing from the bedroom. When I asked Matthew about it suspiciously, "I don't know." He just kept insisting. About a month later, he suddenly said, "Hey, I have a 2-day business trip starting tomorrow." Matthew mainly worked from home, but occasionally he would visit clients. Oh, really? That's unusual. At the time, I didn't think much of it and responded as such. However, Matthew seemed to be in an unusually good mood while preparing for the trip, giving me an unsettling premonition. Feeling uneasy, I decided to take a peek inside his travel bag while he was in the shower. To my surprise, it was filled with vacation brochures and new clothes that were clearly not for work. I knew it. This isn't a business trip. He was probably going on a vacation. And if it was a solo trip, he wouldn't need to lie to me about it being for work, so he must be going with a woman. That woman was most likely my mom. I had suspected Matthew and Mom's relationship for a while, but now I was convinced they were truly having an affair. My mind was a jumbled mess of anger and disappointment, but the sound of the bathroom door opening made me hurriedly put the contents of the bag back as they were. I wanted to confront Matthew right away, but I decided to wait until I had definitive proof before doing so. Well, I'm off then. The next day, I sighed inwardly as I saw him off with a beaming smile. I considered tailing him to get evidence of the affair, but suddenly remembering something, I quickly went to confirm it. Then, in the early afternoon of the day after Matthew left for his trip, I received an unexpected call from him. "Katie, listen. Something terrible happened. I'm in front of your parents' house right now, and it's completely burned down." What? I let out a dumbfounded voice without thinking. Hey, quit joking around. I'm not joking. Get over to your parents' house right now. Rebecca is in a daze. So the two of them were together after all. I wanted to confront them about it, but right now I was more concerned about my childhood home being burnt to the ground. Explain it to me in detail. When I calmly asked, Matthew started to explain. Apparently, the fire was caused by a cigarette Mom had tossed carelessly, igniting the trash can. Fortunately, the neighboring houses were far enough away that the fire didn't spread. I have a lot I want to ask you too, but for now I'll head over there immediately. Saying that, I hung up the phone and rushed to my parents' house. Just as Matthew had said, my childhood home was completely burned down, and the area was crowded with onlookers. The shock of losing the house filled with memories of Dad made my knees buckle, but I somehow managed to stand firm, staring at the charred remains. Then Matthew and Mom approached me. In contrast to my grief, the two of them were smiling. Mom had apparently been questioned by the police, but with no suspicion of foul play, she was released. Let's go home for now. At Matthew's words, we took Mom and returned home. As soon as we arrived, Matthew proudly announced, "Starting today, Rebecca will be living with us. I got myself a boyfriend and a housekeeper. And of course, by housekeeper, I mean you, Katie." Mom clung to Matthew as she said such a thing. Their attitude made my anger explode. Are you kidding me? How can you say something like that so casually in this situation? Mom, our family home burned down. The house filled with memories of Dad is gone. And Matthew, there's something seriously wrong with you too. I yelled at the two of them, but he just laughed and said, "Hey, don't get so worked up." He seemed completely unfazed by my words. Mom was the same way. Oh my, poor Katie, you're overreacting. More importantly, I want to share a bedroom with him, so you sleep in a separate room, okay? She laughed mockingly. I was utterly appalled by the two of them and fell silent. Then Matthew said, "What, are you so shocked you can't even speak?" Something completely off the mark. I bet you're completely caught off guard that Rebecca and I are dating. He laughed. We're totally head over heels in love. Sorry about that. Since I'm going to be living here starting today, you better take good care of me as the housekeeper, Katie. At Mom's words, I couldn't help but spit out. That's disgusting. You have some nerve. I already knew about your little affair. I have evidence too, so I'll be filing a lawsuit for damages. What? Evidence? Matthew and Mom looked surprised, but I showed them the hidden camera I had installed in the bedroom. Lately, my personal belongings kept disappearing from the bedroom, so I set up a camera. I thought it would catch the culprit. But when I checked the footage, your affair was captured clear as day. So you knew, huh? Well, that makes this easy then. I prefer a woman like Rebecca over a plain, boring girl like you any day. Let's get divorced. Matthew told me condescendingly. Sorry, Katie. And Mom laughed. You don't need to tell me, of course we're getting divorced. Saying that, I opened my laptop, downloaded divorce papers from the government website, and printed them out. I signed my portion and handed them to Matthew. Hurry up and sign your part too. Humph, you're being surprisingly obedient. I thought you'd put up more of a fight. Why would I fight it? My love for Matthew had not only reached zero, it had plummeted into the negatives. Like I said before, I'll be suing you too for damages. Be ready for that. At my words, Mom burst out laughing. Go right ahead, sue us for as much as you want. Matthew. Katie, you're such a money-grubbing woman. Laughed too. Ignoring the two of them, I started packing a bare minimum of belongings. Then, clutching the completed divorce papers, I left the house. After submitting the divorce papers at the government office, I decided to stay at a hotel and immediately started searching for a lawyer. I browsed the websites of various law firms, feeling a burning anger and determination to drag them both through hell. However, I knew that even without me lifting a finger, the two of them were in for a world of pain. Because there was something Mom didn't know about Matthew. When Mom found out about that, she would surely wail in despair. The next morning, I was woken up by a call from Mom. Hey! What's this about Matthew being in debt? I never heard about this. Hearing Mom immediately start screeching, I couldn't help but smile. That's right, Matthew was actually in debt. Back when he was single, Matthew had tried to start a business and failed. But I married him knowing that. I went into the marriage resolved to pay off the debt together, and up until now, I had actually been helping with the repayments. Hey Katie, are you listening to me? I thought Matthew had a high salary. He gave me so many gifts in reality. I coldly told Mom, whose voice was trembling. Matthew, a high salary? As if. His pay is low to begin with, and most of it goes towards paying off his debts. But even so, he was at least putting in the bare minimum for living expenses. Lately though, it seems like he's been using that money to buy you gifts instead, so I've been the one covering our costs of living. Ever since he started making comments comparing me to Mom, he had barely been contributing to the household expenses at all. No way. Wait a minute, then what about the damages? I thought he would pay for those. She screeched. I'll be properly claiming damages from both of you. I'm in the process of finding a lawyer now, so I'll send you the bill at a later date. You said to claim as much as I want, and I think the amount will be quite high, but make sure you pay it properly. Wait a minute. Hold on. I don't need a poor man like that. I'll return him to you, so don't file for damages. I don't have any savings. Return him? I don't want a man like that. Besides, I already submitted the divorce papers. So just wait to hear from the lawyer about what happens next. Goodbye. I told her coldly and hung up the phone. Then I immediately headed to a real estate agency to look for a new place to live. I found a suitable property right away and signed the contract. During that time, she kept calling me non-stop, so I got fed up and blocked her number. Some time passed, and we arranged a meeting with lawyers present. Matthew and Mom showed up, losing hostility towards each other. A few days prior, I had received a voicemail from Matthew saying Mom had thrown him away without a second thought. That woman, as soon as she found out I had debt, she completely changed her attitude. She looked down on me like I was trash and tossed me aside. I thought she would help pay off the debt together with me, just like Katie did. So heartless. I never imagined something like this would happen. That was the gist of the voicemail, but of course I didn't bother returning his call. It seemed Mom was drifting between acquaintances' homes, and now Matthew was living alone in the house he and I used to share. I told them, as I said the other day, I'll be claiming compensation for infidelity from both of you. Matthew openly grimaced. Are you really going to sue for damages? And muttered. Mom screeched. I don't have any money. To Mom, I quietly said. Also, the hidden camera I set up in the bedroom captured footage of you taking my bags and jewelry box. Mom trembled at my words, her mouth gaping. So I'll be claiming damages for theft from you too, Mom. Are you kidding me? I'm your actual mother. It's ridiculous to demand money from your own mother. Mom yelled at me, her face beet red. That's the extent of what you did, Mom. The accessories you stole included expensive items I received from business partners. By the way, what did you do with the things you took? Do you still have them? When I asked, Mom brazenly declared. I sold them off ages ago. At the recycling shop in front of the station. But so what? A daughter's belongings are her mother's too. Just overlook it and consider it a display of filial piety. Come on, please don't charge me any money. I heaved a big sigh at her words. Cut the crap. You are no longer my mother or anything else to me. You will pay the money without fail. When I said that coldly, Mom had tears in her eyes and a look of despair on her face. No way. I used up all of my husband's inheritance and ran out of money, so I got together with Matthew thinking he was rich. It all totally backfired. If I had known he was in debt, I never would have dated him. It seemed Mom had only ever viewed him as a host to feed off of from the beginning. What? So you were only after my money from the start? Didn't you say you loved me? He yelled at Mom. Of course I love you was a lie. As if I would ever actually fall for a guy who just has a decent face like you. If you have debt, say so from the beginning. She shouted back at him, and the two of them argued. The lawyer intervened, and finally they stopped fighting. Hey, Katie. You know better than anyone how much I'm struggling with debt, right? There's no way I can pay damages. Actually, why don't you and I start over? I really do need you, Katie. I gave a scornful look to him, who was trying to get back together with me even in this situation. Absolutely not. The reason you want to patch things up with me is because you want me to waive the damages. And you want me to help pay off your debt again, right? I can see right through what you're thinking. Ugh. He couldn't say anything back and let out a groan. To the pale-faced Matthew and Mom, I said one last thing. This is all your own faults, both of you. Have fun rotting in hell together. After that, Mom contacted the recycling shop where she had sold my belongings and managed to buy most of them back, but she still ended up with a debt she couldn't fully repay. In the end, it seemed both Matthew and Mom had to declare bankruptcy. Matthew failed to pay rent for several months and was forcibly evicted as a result. With both of their lives becoming difficult, the two of them reluctantly decided to cooperate and live together, apparently moving into a cheap, old apartment building. That apartment was about 50 years old and didn't seem to have a shower room. After some time passed, I received a call from him. I considered ignoring it, but feeling slightly curious about Matthew and Mom's current situation, I decided to answer. Hello? Katie! I'm begging you, I can't take living like this anymore. Lend me some money. He started ranting through gritted teeth. What? As if I would lend you money. Besides, I already agreed to let you pay the damages in installments, and you're nowhere near finished paying it off. I really wanted them to pay the damages in a lump sum, but they tearfully pleaded that there was no way they could do that, so I allowed installments. By the way, Mom also desperately apologized to me just like Matthew and requested installment payments, so I had no choice but to agree. It's impossible now. I can't pay anymore. My computer was seized when I declared bankruptcy, so I got fired from my job as a web designer. Now I'm scraping by day-to-day doing temp work, but it's really tough since it's manual labor. He tearfully appealed to me, but that was none of my concern. As I remained silent, he kept rambling on. This apartment is way too old. It's the worst. There's no shower room, so I have to go to the spa, but even the spa fees are hard to afford. There's no air conditioning in the room either, so I feel like I'm gonna get heat stroke, and it's so cramped that Rebecca and I are always irritated and constantly fighting. His voice gradually became choked with tears, but there was no way I would feel any sympathy. I don't care if you got fired, or if your temp job is hard, or if your room is terrible. And of course, the state of your relationship with Mom is irrelevant too. As long as you pay me the damages, that's all that matters to me. Why are you being so cold? Weren't we husband and wife? Was our bond really that flimsy? At Matthew's words, I felt a sensation of anger dyeing my vision red. Don't give me that crap. Who was it that cheated on me with my own mother? You're the one who destroyed the trust between us, you bastard. What dash? He seemed taken aback since it was the first time I had ever yelled at him like that. It's partly my fault too for not seeing through the true nature of a man like you before marrying you. I wish I could go back in time and tell my past self when I first met you what a lowlife you are. There's no need to say that to me. Matthew objected to me, flustered. Come on, I'm reflecting on it. Just lend me a little money. Don't be so cold. You're the one making me say this. I absolutely will not lend you money. Do you have any idea how much I've spent up until now to help pay off your debts? Well, it was my choice to help with the repayments, so I'm not going to complain about that. But you need to stop spouting this nonsense. I told him clearly. But Matthew still started to say, don't ever contact me again. If you have business with me, go through my lawyer. Goodbye. Wait a minute. Fine, I won't ask you to lend me money anymore. But I have a request for you. Rebecca is still blowing money on brand name bags and stuff. Can't you at least tell her to stop doing that? He hurriedly told me in a rushed voice. I don't know anything about that. You two got back together, right? Figure out how to help each other somehow and keep on living. Bye. Saying that, I hung up the phone and immediately blocked his number. After that, it seemed Mom, still unable to control her spending habits, finally contacted a loan shark whose ad she found in her mailbox. She took out a loan and got her hands on a large sum of money, but apparently she spent it all on brand name clothes and bags in an instant. Of course, she had no way to pay it back, so it seemed she was now on the run from the loan sharks. I heard through my lawyer that Mom was asking for my help, but of course I ignored it. I hadn't expected Mom to be this obsessed with brand name goods and a luxurious lifestyle. Back when Dad was alive, she had a somewhat more modest way of living, but perhaps receiving his inheritance made her lose all self-control. Suddenly, memories of Mom from my childhood resurfaced. In that house that had burned down, I often made cookies together with Mom when I was little. She prepared all sorts of cookie cutters for me and even changed the flavor of the dough to suit my mood. In my memories, Mom was smiling gently, and I loved her very much. There was a time like that, long ago. Come to think of it, Mom's makeup gradually got heavier and her fashion got flashier over the years. Was there a reason Mom changed so much? I don't know now, and I don't want to know either. One thing I can say is that the current Mom is not the Mom I used to love. Exhausted from a life of being chased by loan sharks, it seems Mom and Matthew moved in a near escape, but the monthly transfers are still being made somehow, so I suppose they're living somewhere out there. As for me, I'm immersing myself in work even more than before. Now that I don't have to help pay off Matthew's debts, my savings are growing rapidly. I'm planning to take an extended vacation soon and go on a solo trip. I got my mistress pregnant. Let's get a divorce. So, this woman you've been seeing, she's pregnant now? I'm guessing your little affair didn't just start a month ago, did it? We've been together for about a year now. I guess you could call it an affair. I didn't want to hide it and risk causing more drama later on, so I'll pay the alimony for an affair-based divorce. I laughed bitterly. I see. So, all those late nights at work and solo weekend outings weren't just to escape taking care of Lizzie, but also to meet up with your mistress. That's right. I had been left to shoulder the burden of caring for Lizzie, my mother-in-law, after she was diagnosed with dementia. It was a challenging situation on its own, but then my husband disappeared for a month without a word, only to return suddenly with his mistress in tow. To make matters worse, he brazenly declared his infidelity and referred to his mistress as his lover right in front of me. The term wasn't inaccurate, but I couldn't help but wonder if his mistress would be angered by such a blatant label. To my surprise, she simply smiled at me in silence. It was eerie, the way she grinned after being called a mistress. Was she that desperate to marry my husband? Well, if she wanted him that badly, she could have him. Fine, but from now on, Lizzie's care is your responsibility, I stated firmly. What? Caring for her is your job, isn't it? You quit your job, so you don't have an income. I'll give you some money, so just keep taking care of that demented old hag. I'll pay extra, so handle the housework too. If you expect me to come to this house, does that mean you two will be living here? That's not going to work, because this house is going to be gone soon. They had no idea what was coming. I hoped my husband's mistress would suffer plenty after getting her hands on my husband. And I wanted my husband, oblivious as he was, to thoroughly regret leaving me. My name is Adele. A 50-year-old company employee married to Pei, who also works for a company. We have a daughter, Anita, who recently graduated from college, got a job, and moved out on her own. Our child-rearing days were officially over. Looking back, despite the various struggles, those memories were all precious to me. With our daughter out of the house, I thought Pei and I would continue working while enjoying a relaxed life together as a couple. But then, the unthinkable happened. I told you I was worried about leaving her alone, I sighed, exasperated.
It's fine now. She's safe and sound, isn't she?
We had rushed to the hospital after receiving a call that Lizzie had collapsed. My husband was now voicing his frustrations to Lizzie, who lay sleeping on the hospital bed. Apparently, Lizzie had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. Although she managed to survive, the after effects left her with vascular dementia.
I can't take any more of Mom's selfish demands.
I nodded in agreement.
You're right. Let's start making arrangements right away.
At that moment, my husband and I decided to move in with Lizzie without her consent. Lizzie was already 80 years old and had been living alone for the past 5 years, ever since my father-in-law passed away. When my husband's father died, we had suggested that Lizzie move in with us, but
I'm not going to live with you,
she had declared stubbornly.
I'm finally on my own, so let me live my life freely. I'm finally on my own, so let me live my life freely.
But we're worried about what might happen to you, Lizzie, I had pleaded.
What do you mean, what might happen? Don't treat me like some helpless old lady. Sure, I've got one foot in the grave, but I can still take care of my own house,
she had retorted. Don't say things like that.
I absolutely refuse to live with you, and that's final, Lizzie had insisted.
We had persisted in suggesting the idea of living together, but no matter what we said, Lizzie remained adamant about not wanting to cohabitate. As a result, my husband and I had relented and decided to visit Lizzie's home as often as possible and keep in touch with her regularly. However, even that seemed to displease Lizzie.
Having you come over to my house all the time like this is really unsettling, she had complained.
Please don't say that. We'll leave right away, I had reassured her.
If you're just going to leave right away, then there's no need for you to come in the first place. Are you after my valuables or something? Or are you here for the inheritance? There's no money in this house, you know,
she had accused. That's not why we're here at all. Whenever we went to check on Lizzie, she would often yell at us. The Lizzie of the past had been so kind, helping out a great deal when our daughter was young, calling to check if we were having any troubles with child rearing or our marriage. But after her husband passed away, she had changed a little. Now that Lizzie had collapsed, we could no longer indulge her selfish whims. In Lizzie's hospital room, as she slept, my husband and I exchanged glances, confirming in each other's expressions that our resolve was firm. We decided to force the issue of living together, no matter how much venom Lizzie might spew at us later. I'm sorry. This is going to be a bigger burden on you.
It's fine, really. I'm only 50, so if I put my mind to it, I'm sure I can find another job,
I reassured him. As we made preparations to move into my in-laws' home, my husband kept apologizing to me repeatedly. From now on, I would be quitting my job to devote myself to supporting Lizzie, who had developed dementia. This was my way of repaying Lizzie for taking care of me in the past. It was also an apology for not having forced the issue of living together sooner, before things had come to this. You came. Thank you. I'm sorry for causing you trouble, Lizzie said, her voice weak. Not at all. We're the ones who will be imposing on you, I replied, trying to sound cheerful. I had expected Lizzie to spew venom at me once we started living together, but to my surprise, she welcomed me warmly. The atmosphere was reminiscent of the kind Lizzie from the past. At this rate, I thought we could manage living together without any issues. However, problems began to surface in unexpected ways. Lizzie was more energetic than we had imagined. She could walk on her own, so she didn't need much assistance around the house, and her speech was clear. The content of her conversations, though, was a bit problematic.
The flower field over there was so beautiful. Let's go there together next time, Adele. Sounds good. Let's go together with pay,
Lizzie suggested, sipping her tea as she recounted a day trip she claimed to have taken yesterday. It seemed she had enjoyed it so much that she wanted to take me along. However, the day trip Lizzie was referring to had taken place not yesterday, but 20 years ago. She had mistaken it for a recent trip and was sharing her travel memories with me. I continued to listen to Lizzie's stories with a smile, without correcting or drawing attention to her confusion. It appeared that Lizzie's dementia had made it difficult for her to distinguish between past and present memories. As a result, she would occasionally talk about events from decades ago as if they had happened recently. If that were the only issue, I thought it wouldn't be a major problem since I could simply listen to her stories. However, I quickly realized that this assumption was naive.
Having you come over to my house all the time like this is really unsettling. Can't you leave soon?
Lizzie grumbled.
Lizzie, we're already living together,
I reminded her gently.
I'm not going to live with you. Don't say such nonsense,
she retorted, stomping off to her room. In situations like this, pressing the issue would only escalate Lizzie's anger, so I had no choice but to wait until she calmed down. Worried that Lizzie might do something dangerous, I would occasionally check on her room while going about my household chores. Lizzie acted on her thoughts. Whether they stemmed from past memories or ideas that popped into her head at the moment, so caution was necessary.
Where are the forks? Lizzie asked, rummaging through the drawers. Forks? Why are you looking for forks? Are you going to eat something? Of course I'm looking for them because I'm going to eat, Lizzie snapped. But didn't we just have dinner?
It's for the cake roll after the meal, right? I'll bring it out now, I interjected, hoping to defuse the situation.
Wow, you understood that so well. I have no idea what Mom is trying to say anymore.
She mentioned she was looking forward to it this afternoon, so it was easy to figure out this time. But there are times when even I don't understand, I admitted.
Still, that's impressive. The other day, I couldn't understand what Mom wanted, and she threw a fit. It was quite troubling.
I brought out 3 slices of cake roll, and we enjoyed the after-dinner dessert as a family. However, my husband quickly finished his portion and retreated to his room. After dessert, I listened to Lizzie's cheerful chatter as usual. Previously, my husband would join me in listening to Lizzie's stories, but now he was trying to keep his distance from her. At first, my husband had been proactive about caring for Lizzie, but it seemed more challenging than he had anticipated, and he gradually left everything related to Lizzie up to me. To distance himself from Lizzie, he started coming home late from work and going out alone on his days off. I had quit my job to support Lizzie. However, I realized that if things continued this way, my husband might think it was okay not to help at all, so I finally decided to confront him.
Don't you think you could listen to Lizzie's stories a bit more? You're starting to leave everything to me, and it's like you're avoiding your mother,
I said, trying to keep my voice calm.
That's not true. I'm just tired from work and don't want to get caught up in Mom's long conversations or hysterics at home. That's the problem. I'm not asking you to help more. I just want you to lend a hand a little, and I don't want you to dump everything on me like this,
I explained, my frustration growing.
Fine.
You don't have to get hysterical too. My husband muttered, walking out of the living room as if to escape from me. I regretted not phrasing it better. But at least I had gotten a commitment from him. I thought this meant he wouldn't completely abandon Lizzie's care to me. That was supposed to be the case, but my husband tried to fulfill his promise in a way I hadn't imagined. I'm sorry. You just started working, and it must be tough for you. I apologized to my daughter as I handed her a cup of tea. It's okay, since it's only occasionally. And I want to see Grandma too. Anita reassured me, taking the tea to Lizzie and starting to listen to her stories in my place. While they chatted, I went out shopping. Anita started coming home and helping out in various ways, which was a great relief for me. However, this wasn't something I had asked for. Oh, Anita. You're here. You're always such a big help.
What were you thinking, going out alone again? If you're here, then I'm not needed, right? That's not the issue, Anita exclaimed.
When my husband, who had been off work and out playing since the morning, returned home, our daughter scolded him as soon as she saw his face. Watching my daughter scold my husband, I couldn't help but sigh. The reason Anita started coming home was that my husband had asked her to help out a bit because caring for Lizzie was challenging. I had only wanted my husband to help a little, but he had delegated that small amount of assistance to our daughter. Our kind-hearted daughter had agreed to come, but when it came down to it, my husband wasn't helping at all. It was only natural for Anita to be angry. However, no matter how much Anita scolded him, my husband's attitude didn't improve. If anything, it seemed to worsen the situation, as he thought everything was fine now that Anita was helping, and he completely avoided anything related to Lizzie. While I was grateful for Anita's assistance, it was only occasional. In the end, I found myself caring for Lizzie almost entirely on my own.
You hid my clothes, didn't you?
Lizzie accused me, her eyes blazing with anger.
I didn't do anything like that. You probably forgot where you put them. Shall we look for them together?
I offered, trying to keep my voice calm and soothing.
Don't give me that innocent hat. What a horrible person you are. Do you enjoy bullying an old woman that much? You wicked daughter-in-law.
Lizzie spat, her words dripping with venom. About a year had passed since I started taking care of Lizzie by myself. If you looked at it day by day, the stress of caring for Lizzie wasn't that significant. However, when it continued for a year, the stress gradually accumulated. Moreover, caregiving wasn't the only source of my stress.
Hey, keep it down. Don't make me raise my voice.
If anything, the main cause of my stress was him. My husband still didn't lift a finger to help and had completely dumped everything related to Lizzie on me. I had tried to keep him informed about important matters, but...
You know how Lizzie called the real estate agent on her own and tried to sign some contract?
I began, hoping to discuss the issue with him.
You told them she has dementia, so they invalidated it, right?
Yes,
but to prevent the same thing from happening again.
I persisted, trying to convey the gravity of the situation.
I'll pass on that kind of troublesome talk. Taking care of Mom is your job.
My husband cut me off, fiddling with his phone as he walked out of the living room. I had reached a point where he wouldn't even listen to me. This had been going on for a year, and I was understandably feeling quite down. I was still managing for now, but at this rate, my mental health might eventually deteriorate. One day, as I was worrying about this, an incident occurred that severely drained my emotional reserves.
I'm telling you, it wasn't me. Stop making false accusations. It was you, wasn't it? I saw you do it. Fix it right now.
Lizzie demanded, her tone equally furious.
That's obviously impossible. Have Adele take you to the optician tomorrow or something.
As I was cleaning up after dinner, I suddenly heard my husband and Lizzie's angry voices. I hurriedly stopped washing the dishes, wiped my wet hands, and headed to the living room.
What's going on?
I asked, trying to assess the situation.
She's saying I broke her reading glasses. You broke them right in front of me.
Lizzie insisted, her eyes narrowed in accusation.
Stop making false accusations, you demented old hag. Hey, what kind of way is that to talk?
I admonished him, shocked by his callous attitude.
Shut up! I can't take this anymore. Staying in this house is nothing but a source of stress.
My husband yelled, roughly shoving my shoulder to force me aside as he stormed out of the house. The pain in my shoulder from his push and the unreasonable words he had hurled at me left me unable to muster the energy to chase after him or call out to him. I simply watched his retreating back, feeling utterly defeated.
It was him who broke them.
Lizzie insisted, her voice trembling with anger and frustration. I understand. Let's go to the optician tomorrow. For tonight, please bear with it without your reading glasses. I said, trying to placate her. I'm always causing you trouble. Thank you. Lizzie said, her tone softening. What are you saying? This is only natural. I reassured her, my heart aching at her vulnerability. As I cleaned up the broken reading glasses from the table, I listened to Lizzie's story. Lizzie sometimes got angry out of nowhere or said things that didn't make much sense, but she also had moments when she reverted to the kind Lizzie I knew. I believed that it was this kind Lizzie's presence that kept me sane. That day, my husband, who had left the house, didn't return. Well, I thought he would come back eventually, so I didn't pay much attention to it. However, he didn't return the next day or the day after that. I got worried and called him several times, but he wouldn't pick up. About 2 weeks after my husband left the house, I finally received a message from him. It was just 6 characters long, saying he would return eventually. Since he said he would come back eventually, and he wasn't a child, I decided not to worry about it. Honestly, my husband had been the main source of my stress, so it was actually a relief to have him gone. After being married for over 20 years, this is what a marital relationship is like. However, another 2 weeks passed, and a month went by without my husband returning home. I started to worry again and was thinking about calling him when he suddenly came back.
Hey, I'm back. Come on, come in. This is going to be our home now. What? What do you mean?
When I greeted my husband at the entrance, I was perplexed by his attitude, as if nothing had happened in the past month. What confused me even more was the unfamiliar woman standing next to my husband. She looked to be in her late 30s, relatively young. My husband took the woman's hand and entered the house as if it were the most natural thing in the world, heading straight for the living room. I was so taken aback that I froze at the entrance. A few seconds later, I came to my senses and hurriedly followed my husband and the woman. When I arrived at the living room, my husband and the woman were sitting on the sofa as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I stood in front of my husband, demanding an explanation.
What do you mean, this is going to be your home? Where have you been for the past month? And who is this woman?
I asked, my voice rising with each question.
Don't bombard me with questions like that. But I guess one answer will suffice for all of them.
He said, his tone dismissive. I had intended to intimidate my husband, but he didn't seem to be listening at all. Instead, he had an eerie smile on his face, and I had a bad feeling about what was to come.
I got my mistress pregnant. Let's get a divorce,
he said, his words hitting me like a ton of bricks. My husband's words made me feel dizzy, and I thought I might collapse. I had a vague suspicion, but it seemed the woman was indeed his mistress. He must have been staying with her for the past month. Was he getting carried away with the idea of remarrying a younger woman? Or was he elated that he had gotten a woman in her late 30s pregnant at his age of over 50? He was calling his mistress his lover right in front of her. The term wasn't incorrect, but wouldn't the mistress get angry at being called that? That's what I thought, but the mistress just smiled at me in silence. Despite being called a mistress, she was smiling. It was quite eerie. Did she want to marry my husband that badly? If she was fine with a husband like him, she could have him. She could have my husband and suffer to her heart's content. My ignorant husband would also deeply regret leaving me, I thought. My husband and his mistress had smug expressions on their faces, as if they had one. They probably intended to kick me out of this house and live here together with their future child. If they wanted a divorce, that was fine, but before that, there were several things I needed to confirm with my husband.
That woman is pregnant, right? Then your relationship couldn't have started just this past month, could it?
I asked, my voice steady.
We've been together for about a year now. This would be considered an affair, right? I don't want to hide it and risk causing trouble later, so I'll pay the alimony for an affair.
He said, his tone almost boastful. I see.
So, coming home late from work and going out alone on your days off weren't just to escape from caring for Lizzie, but also to meet that woman.
I concluded, piecing it all together.
That's right. Actually, about Mom's reading glasses, I really did break them to get away from home for a few days. I was planning to come back in about 3 days, but during that time, her pregnancy was discovered. So, after discussing what to do, we decided to have you leave.
He explained, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world.
Fine, then please take care of Lizzie's caregiving from now on.
I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. My husband's incredibly childish words and actions made me lose any desire to have a discussion, so I decided to leave the scene quickly. However, I was made painfully aware that my husband's immaturity exceeded my imagination.
Huh? Caregiving is your job, isn't it? You quit your job. You don't have an income, right? I'll give you some money, so keep taking care of that demented old hag. I'll pay extra, so take care of the housework too.
He demanded, his tone dismissive. Hearing my husband's words, I felt like his mistress's smirk grew stronger. Seeing her expression, I kind of understood why she didn't get angry when my husband called her his mistress.
What's your name? I asked, turning to the woman. It's Kendall, why?
She replied, her tone almost bored.
Kendall, I'm sorry to ask, but what's your job?
I inquired, trying to keep my composure.
I'm a part-timer, why?
She said, her expression guarded.
Will you continue working after marrying my husband?
I pressed, needing to know.
I've been told I can just become a housewife, so I'm planning to quit, why?
She responded, her tone defensive. It seemed my hunch was correct. My husband was trying to make me take care of Lizzie and do the housework even after our divorce. He said he would pay me, but he probably only intended to give me a small allowance. If I were to take care of the house, what would his mistress do as a housewife? He probably told her she wouldn't have to do anything. His mistress could live comfortably, so she must have decided to marry my husband. Even if I left the house, with my husband's family home, she could raise her child with peace of mind and rely on my husband's money. That must have been good enough for her. My husband probably thought that having a young wife and a cute child would be enough. However, the life they envisioned in this house would never come to pass.
If you expect me to come to this house, does that mean you two will be living here? That's not going to work, because this house is going to be gone soon. What are you talking about? This house is going to disappear? That's right. Lizzie is planning to sell this house and use the money to enter a nursing home.
I explained, my voice calm and steady.
Sell the house? Isn't that what that demented old hag was trying to do when she contacted the real estate agent on her own? I thought we talked to the real estate agent and had the contract nullified. Don't tell me she tried to proceed with the contract again after that? But I can't imagine that someone with dementia could properly handle contract discussions. Last time, the real estate agent contacted us to confirm she was trying to proceed with the contract on her own, so we found out. This time, I handled the procedures on her behalf.
I stated matter-of-factly.
The house should be in Lizzie's name. There's no way you could easily sell the house on her behalf. If you're going to lie, at least make it more believable.
It's not a lie. I've become Lizzie's legal guardian. So, I've gained the authority to manage her assets on her behalf. I can sell real estate, sign contracts for nursing care services, and even discuss the division of inheritance. I explained, watching the realization dawn on his face.
So, that means you can do anything on Lizzie's behalf?
Not anything, but roughly speaking, yes. I confirmed, nodding my head.
Why are you the one handling such important procedures? If someone is going to become her legal whatever, it should be me, her son. Remember about 6 months ago, when Lizzie contacted the real estate agent on her own? I tried to consult with you to prevent the same thing from happening again. But you said you'd pass on such troublesome discussions and that Lizzie was my responsibility, dumping it all on me. So, I proceeded with the procedures.
I reminded him, my voice tinged with frustration. Realizing that I was in a position to sell the house on Lizzie's behalf, my husband seemed quite flustered. It was only natural, given that he had just found out the house he planned to live in with his mistress would soon disappear. In an attempt to protect the house he intended to live in, my husband appeared to be considering his words for a counterattack against me. Sweat beaded on his forehead. No matter how much he racked his brain, there was no way he could retaliate against me, but after a while, my husband's expression suddenly changed. Let's hear what he came up with.
You sold this house to create money for Lizzie to enter a nursing home, right? Is that Lizzie's intention? Lizzie has dementia. I can't believe she's capable of expressing such intentions. Isn't this just you using the rights of being her legal whatever because you don't want to take care of Lizzie? You're planning to put Lizzie in a nursing home for your own sake. What a terrible person you are.
Pei accused, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. I thought my husband had noticed something important. However, the conclusion he reached was worth 0 points.
Lizzie sometimes talks about past memories as if they were current memories, right? You wouldn't know because you've been avoiding Lizzie, but there have been times when she's reverted back to the Lizzie from before we started living together. During those times, Lizzie told me various things. Remember how she opposed living together and had a cold attitude towards us after your father passed away? It seems she didn't want to interfere with our married life. So, she had originally planned to sell the house and enter a nursing home, but she tried to endure until the very end because the house was filled with memories of your father. Then, she collapsed from a cerebral hemorrhage. So, when she contacted the real estate agent on her own before, her memories from that time probably resurfaced, and she thought she had to contact the real estate agent. So, I'm respecting Lizzie's past intentions and selling the house on her behalf, making preparations for her to enter a nursing home.
I clarified, my voice firm and resolute.
Why didn't you tell me about selling the house and putting Lizzie in a nursing home?
Pei demanded, his voice rising with anger.
Didn't you say Lizzie was my responsibility and dump everything on me? So, I thought it would be fine to tell you once all the preparations were finalized. But when push came to shove, you left the house for a whole month and were unreachable. What else could I do?
I countered, my patience wearing thin. Understanding that he wouldn't be able to live the life he had imagined with his mistress, my husband's shoulders slumped in defeat. However, it seemed he hadn't lost hope for the future yet.
Well, if Lizzie enters a nursing home, that means we won't have to take care of her. And even if I have to pay alimony, I can still divorce you. Then I can marry Kendall. I was shocked about the house disappearing, but it doesn't seem like that big of a deal for me.
Unfortunately, I was about to extinguish that hope as well. I think you two will have a tough time ahead with money and other things, but do your best. I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm.
What? Money and stuff? Isn't the money for Lizzie to enter the nursing home coming from selling this house? Actually, this house is old, so we have to demolish it and sell just the land. The demolition costs are surprisingly high. Well, after subtracting the demolition costs from the money we get from selling the land, it'll be around $80,000.
So, that $80,000 will go to Lizzie, right? Geez, don't scare me like that. That's a lot of money coming in, isn't it?
Well, about the nursing home Lizzie is planning to enter, we ended up choosing a pretty nice place. Just the initial move-in fee is around $30,000.
I revealed, bracing myself for his reaction.
Even so, there's still $50,000 left, right? The monthly fee for the nursing home is $3,000.
Said, watching his face fall.
$3,000? With that, $50,000 will be gone in just a little over a year. We'll need money for things other than paying the nursing home, so it might be gone in less than a year. But don't worry. There are various programs available, so Kendall, I'll leave the rest to you. What? Me? I don't know what to do if you tell me that all of a sudden. Hey, you know what to do, right? Do it for me.
Kendall pleaded, her eyes wide with fear.
I don't know anything either. I've been dumping everything about Mom on Adele until now. More importantly, why did you choose such an expensive nursing home?
If Lizzie enters a nursing home, I can work again, right? So, I was planning to find a new job and pay the fees myself after using up Lizzie's money. I've already found a job and will start working next month. Since my career break was only about a year, I found one quickly. But I don't need to save money for Lizzie anymore, right? I said, my voice calm and collected.
No, we're having a child, and we'll have to rent a house since this one is disappearing, and there's alimony for you. $3,000 a month is impossible. Please. Can't you reconsider selling the house and the nursing home?
No.
Selling the house and the nursing home were already decided. By the way, the only way to cancel the legal guardianship midway is if the person's judgment ability recovers.
I stated firmly, leaving no room for argument.
So, even if we get divorced, you'll be managing Lizzie's assets, right?
That's right.
I'll protect the money from selling the house, so don't get any funny ideas.
I warned, my tone stern. Realizing that the happy life he had envisioned with his mistress would not come to pass, my husband slumped in defeat once again. Seeing his reaction, his mistress also began to panic.
Wait, what does this mean? You said there's a house, and even though Lizzie has dementia, she'll croak in a few years because of her age, so we wouldn't have to take care of her that much, right? But now the house is being sold and will disappear, and Lizzie will use that money? And from what you're saying now, it seems like we'll have to deal with the high nursing home fees. This is completely different from what I heard, but you can afford to live like that, right?
Kendall demanded, her voice shrill with anger.
I'm sorry. The situation has changed. If possible, could you work? Don't mess with me. Build a replacement house right now.
Kendall yelled, grabbing my husband by the shoulders and shaking him violently. My husband's head bobbed back and forth limply, and I worried it might fall off at any moment. Even though we were planning to demolish the house, we would still be living here for a while, so it would be troublesome if my husband's head fell off. "You can't live here anymore, so please leave," I said firmly, ushering my husband and his mistress out of the house as they continued to argue. "Is someone here?" Lizzie asked, entering the living room after hearing Kendall's shouting.
"I just sent away a persistent door-to-door salesman,"
I lied, pretending the events of the past few minutes had never happened. After that, my husband and I got divorced. As planned, Lizzie sold the house and entered a nursing home. Also, after hearing about the affair, my daughter said she would never see her former father again. It seems that my ex-husband and his mistress broke up after that. As a result, my ex-husband not only has to pay me alimony for the affair but also child support for the child that will be born with his mistress. My ex-husband was cut off by me and our daughter, and he was abandoned by his mistress, leaving him alone. Although he is alone, my ex-husband has a job, so he can live comfortably with financial leeway from now on. Or so one might think. My ex-husband has to continue paying child support and Lizzie's nursing home fees. If Lizzie enters a nursing home with fees that are too high, he may not be able to pay child support. The child about to be born is not at fault. Therefore, I changed Lizzie's nursing home to one with slightly lower fees. However, I haven't forgotten that my ex-husband didn't take care of Lizzie at all when she developed dementia, and that he said things like, "Demented old hag, and I'll only have to endure her for a few years until she croaks." As a form of forced apology to Lizzie, I put my ex-husband in a nursing home with fees that would make his life barely manageable. As Lizzie's legal guardian, who can also sign contracts for nursing care services on her behalf, I won't allow him to change the nursing home on his own. If he wants to live with Lizzie, I would agree to cancel the nursing home contract. However, that's only if he can take care of Lizzie while working. That would be difficult, so I want him to continue working hard for Lizzie and his soon-to-be-born child while living alone. Even after the divorce, I sometimes visit Lizzie at the nursing home with my daughter.
"Adele, Anita, you came to see me. Thank you, I'm so happy."
Lizzie calls out to us in a loud voice when she spots us, hurrying towards us. Perhaps because the nursing home provides a comfortable environment, Lizzie seems to have become a little more energetic. At this rate, she will likely remain healthy for quite some time. According to the nursing home staff, Lizzie remembers me and our daughter, but when her son, my ex-husband, visits, she mistakes him for someone she's meeting for the first time. Having been forgotten even by his mother, my ex-husband has truly become alone. I also started living alone after the divorce, but my situation is different from my ex-husband's. I can still visit Lizzie and talk with her like before, and I can meet my daughter. I also have a job, so I'm not struggling financially. Although I'm living alone, my life is fulfilling.
Turns out, she's just cuter and more vulnerable than you, which makes me want to protect her. You know, men are drawn to protect women who appear weaker. My husband boasted, his face swollen with arrogance. This came after I'd stumbled upon his affair and confronted him, only to be met with a string of excuses and outright defiance. He sought my agreement, but there was no way I could nod along. Furthermore, he had no intention of leaving me or breaking things off with his mistress. Continuing a marriage with such a man was out of the question. So, I packed my bags, returned to my childhood home, and vented to my brother, Daniel. After hearing me out, Daniel broke into a broad smile. "Well, that's great news. What's great about it?"
Hearing about my sister being cheated on, and his first reaction is "That's great?" I couldn't help but yell at him, but Daniel just kept smiling. And then, I noticed the fierce anger hidden behind his smile, an emotion that didn't quite match his expression. My name is Arya, and I'm 31 years old. Anthony, my husband, was a colleague at the same company. Since joining, we'd consult each other on work, collaborate, and eventually became friends who could talk about anything. We'd often go out for drinks, discussing not just work but also personal matters, deepening our bond. After a company party a few months later, Anthony confessed his feelings for me as we were leaving. Attracted to his bright, sociable nature and his kindness, I didn't hesitate to accept his proposal, and we began dating. Our relationship flourished as we continued to share meals and consult each other on work. Both of us loved exploring new places, leading to trips on weekends and vacations abroad. Spending more time with Anthony, I found myself increasingly drawn to him, eventually realizing I wanted to be with him forever. That moment in our 5th year at the company, when Anthony surprised me with a proposal, remains unforgettable. In a private room of a glamorous restaurant, opening the ring box, I was so moved that tears wouldn't stop. I had no reason to refuse, so I immediately accepted the proposal. We both loved breathtaking views, especially the sea, where we had many memories, so we decided to have our wedding in a place overlooking the ocean. Blessed with good weather, it was the best day. I enjoyed my work and wanted to continue discussing it with Anthony even after getting married, but working in the same environment as a couple was difficult, so I ended up transferring to another branch, although my job didn't change much. 3 years into our marriage, we were still happily living together. We would dine out several times a month and travel a few times a year. Our relationship with Anthony's parents was good, and we were living a happy married life. To anyone looking in, we must have seemed like the perfect couple. Indeed, I felt that way too. But that feeling lasted only until this day. Since the next day was a holiday, we had planned to dine out late after work, as we usually did. However, when work was winding down, I received a message from Anthony.
Sorry, Arya. I got invited to dinner by a client tonight, and I can't say no since they've been really good to us recently. I won't be able to make it to our dinner.
I felt lonely but said, I see. Can't be helped. I was looking forward to trying that restaurant, so let's go another time.
Sure, I'll make it up to you. I'll probably be late tonight, so don't wait up. Bye.
Anthony quickly ended the call. As I was about to leave work, my phone rang again. It was from my friend Camila. Hello?
Hey, Arya. Are you free tonight? Wanna grab a drink? It's been a while.
Actually, that works out. Anthony is out to dinner with a client tonight. Camila is my best friend. We're colleagues at the same company, though now we work in different departments. She gave a speech at my wedding and sometimes comes over to our place. Since she and Anthony were also hired at the same time, we've hung out as a trio several times, being drinking buddies with Anthony. It's always more fun when the 3 of us get together. Sometimes, like today, she'd call out of the blue, and we'd meet up for a casual drink when available. We decided to meet at the station near my house, so I left the office and headed to the station. The train arrived just in time, and I got to the station quite early, but Camila was already there waiting. Sorry to keep you.
Long time no see. I just got here too.
After exchanging a few words, we headed to a restaurant. There's a fairly large entertainment district on the way from the station to our house. And we entered a restaurant just off the main street of this area. We started with a toast with beer and then moved on to catching up, as usual.
How's it going recently? Anthony doing well?
Yeah, he's fine. Just the usual, you know? Work has settled down for now, so it's not as busy or tiring. How about you, Camila? Were you working around here today?
Exactly. This area falls under my jurisdiction, so I come here occasionally. On the contrary, I've been swamped with clients since the beginning of the month. I'm truly exhausted every day. At this rate, no man will come near me.
Camila is the epitome of a career woman. Though attractive in face and figure, her blunt personality and strong will seem to keep men at bay. After sharing what's on our minds and feeling the mutual encouragement to keep pushing forward, we left the restaurant in the usual high spirits. This entertainment district has a really nice vibe. Mind if we take a slow walk back? To that, I replied. Sure, a walk to the station will help sober us up. And so, we decided to stroll through the bustling streets towards the station. As we walked, our conversation continued. Arya, you're lucky. You've got a good husband, and it seems like your married life is going well. Are you thinking about having kids anytime soon? Well, we don't really talk about it much. We both love our jobs, and I worry about how pregnancy might affect my work. We're thinking someday, but it's hard to find the right timing. While discussing this, a certain restaurant came into view. It was the place Anthony and I had planned to dine at tonight. The windows were absent, replaced by glass walls allowing a dim view into the elegant interior. The orange chandeliers inside, deliberately subdued, caught my eye. Just as I thought, I'd like to come here next time, I recognized a familiar figure. I stopped in my tracks. Arya, what's wrong? Unable to respond to Camila, my gaze was fixed on the restaurant. There was Anthony, seated across from an unfamiliar woman. She appeared slightly younger than me, dressed in revealing clothing. Anthony had said he was dining with a client tonight, but the woman across from him hardly seemed like a business associate. They were chatting and laughing together. Isn't that Anthony? What's going on? Camila seemed to have noticed Anthony inside as well. I was too shocked to know what to do. Seeing my state, Camila suggested. Arya, maybe you should confront him directly? Yeah, you're right. I took out my mobile phone from my bag and took a photo of Anthony and the unknown woman. As I began to calm down, anger started to bubble up. Upon reaching the station, Camila offered. Should I come with you to confront him? Having both of us there might make Anthony more likely to tell the truth. Thanks, but it's a family matter. I'll talk to him myself. I declined her offer and we parted ways. On my way home, I struggled to contain the growing anger. About an hour after I arrived home, Anthony returned. I'm home. Welcome back. How was dinner with the client? It was tough, you know. They wanted to go to a second place, and they drink a lot. But I think I made a good impression. Right after he finished speaking, I pointed my mobile phone at him, showing him the photo. This person is from your client? She looks quite young. Dressed not quite for work. Did she change before meeting you, Anthony? What? Why? You didn't follow me, did you? Of course not. I was dining out with Camila. We just happened to see this on our way back. Is this person really a client? Choosing such a fancy restaurant for dinner, from which company is she? Well, what? Can't answer? She's not someone you need to hide from me, right? Sorry. Sorry? You mean, this is an affair? She's your mistress? Hey! Answer me. Yes. I broke down crying. Why? Why would you do this? I thought we were doing fine. It's your fault, Arya. You're always busy with work, and though you take care of home, I wanted you to pay more attention to me. You're straightforward and strong, but she's cute and makes me want to protect her. Eventually, I found it more enjoyable to be with her than with you. Hearing those words was a shock. No longer feeling any affection from him. Clearly preferring his affair partner. I would have preferred he just said it was a friends with benefits. I couldn't stay any longer, packed what I needed, and left the house. Dragging my carry-on, I caught the last train home. The journey back home felt longer than usual. I don't remember what I was thinking. Maybe I was too hurt to think about anything. Next thing I knew, I was in front of my parents' house. I had a key but hadn't called ahead, so I rang the doorbell. Daniel, my brother, opened the entrance door. Daniel? Hey! Long time no see. What brings you here at this hour? Daniel is a workaholic. After graduating, he worked for a major company for 3 years before starting his own business. His sales have been growing steadily, and now he's the president of a company with dozens of employees. He hardly ever comes home, and he couldn't even attend my wedding due to an important business meeting. I knew Daniel got married a year ago from our parents, but since there was no wedding ceremony, I had only briefly greeted his wife, with whom I hadn't formed a close connection. It had been years since I last saw Daniel.
Daniel, what about you? How are mom and dad?
Haha. What about me? It's my parents' house too. I finally got a long vacation, so I thought I'd come back and do some filial piety. By the way, they're currently on a trip to Hawaii, using the travel vouchers I gave them. Never thought I'd be house-sitting. His cheerful demeanor hadn't changed. A bit too carefree, but he's the type to make bold moves. I could imagine his employees finding it a pleasant place to work. So, what brings you here at this time, Arya? I was taken aback by Daniel's presence, momentarily forgetting why I had come home.
Sorry. I just had some trouble at home. I was hoping to stay here for a while.
Ah, of course. It's not my house, but it's fine. Your room is available, so come on in. Once you're settled, I'll make some coffee and you can tell me all about it. I felt comforted by Daniel's warmth. After setting down my bags, I decided to take a shower to freshen up. I felt a bit better, but I couldn't calm down. Anger was bubbling up inside me. When I entered the living room, Daniel was watching TV. Refreshed? I'll make some coffee then. As Daniel turned off the TV and I sat down, I began to tell him about the day's events over coffee. How we had been getting along as a married couple. How we had planned to go out to dinner as usual. How he cancelled because he said he was going out to dinner with a client. How I ended up drinking with Camila. And, showing the photo on my mobile phone to Daniel, I told him.
On the way back from drinking, I saw Anthony and this woman at the restaurant we were supposed to go to. When I confronted him after he came home, he admitted to having an affair with her, saying she was cuter and made him want to protect her more than me.
I told the story through tears. Daniel listened to me until the end, looking at my mobile phone. When I finished, he looked up and said something I never expected. I thought Daniel would comfort me, tell me to leave such a man, and be on my side. However, Daniel, with a wide smile, said,
Arya, that's great.
I slammed my hands on the table and stood up in disbelief.
How is that great?
I said, returning to my room. I couldn't understand why Daniel would say that, just thinking about it made me even angrier. I shouldn't have said anything. I regretted talking to Daniel as I lay down on the bed. I didn't want to return to the house where Anthony was, so I stayed at my parents' house. Daniel and I didn't talk much after that day. It was tough that I commute to work from my parents' house during the weekdays. It took twice as long as usual. I spent my time thinking about how hard it would be to file for divorce and demand compensation. A week later, on the weekend, I decided to relax in my room and play some mobile games, enjoying a leisurely time for the first time in a while. Just as I was thinking about getting some lunch, the doorbell rang.
Who could that be?
It was unusual to have visitors, so I went to the entrance. Then, there was Anthony. And he was apologizing to Daniel, who stood there imposingly. Why, though? Shouldn't he be apologizing to me, not Daniel? Then I heard Daniel's voice.
I never imagined the other party would be you. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Anthony was still apologizing to Daniel. Layla's cuter and needs protection, huh? Layla? The only Layla I knew was Daniel's wife. Confused, Daniel continued.
Lately, Layla's been acting restless and clearly hiding something from me. Her expressions when I talked to her weren't right, so I started suspecting an affair. I was considering hiring a detective, and right then, Arya came back home. I was shocked when Arya showed me a photo of your affair, and there was Layla in it. Sad but also surprised that it was a family member involved. You never know what's going to happen. This will make the divorce court and compensation claims easier, though.
I was speechless. Turns out, Anthony's affair partner was Daniel's wife, Layla. The woman Anthony had been dining with wore heavy makeup, completely unrecognizable to me. It had been a while since I last saw her, and I didn't remember her wearing that much makeup. When you contacted me, I truly felt sorry for what I had done. I will cut off all contact with Layla, so please forgive me. Apparently, Daniel had reached out to Anthony about the affair. Daniel noticed me standing there, stunned.
Oh, Arya. You heard the conversation?
Yeah, most of it.
Good. Now we have all the information we need on Anthony and Layla, his affair partner. This will make it easier to file for compensation in the divorce proceedings. It's good you came home, Arya.
Daniel said to me with a smile. So that's what it was. At that moment, I understood the meaning behind Daniel's words from a week ago. Why he had said that's great. What was Daniel feeling at that time? He was trying to comfort me, but maybe he was also speaking to himself. Thinking about Daniel's feelings, I decided to divorce Anthony and claim compensation in the divorce proceedings.
Arya. It's my fault. Please forgive me. I can't pay the compensation if you demand it in the divorce proceedings.
I ignored Anthony's plea for help.
I'll contact you later with the details. Be prepared.
Daniel then kicked Anthony out of the house. Afterward, Daniel told Layla about the divorce and filed for compensation. Layla initially resisted but seemed to accept the demands after discussing Anthony. I also demanded a divorce and compensation from Anthony. After being clearly told by Daniel, Anthony complied without resistance. When the divorce was finalized, I received a call. It was from Anthony's mother. Expecting a scolding, I hesitantly answered, but heard an apology instead. She was sincerely sorry for his actions. It seemed Anthony blamed Layla for the divorce, and Layla blamed Anthony, leading to their breakup. His parents apologized repeatedly for their son's inadequacies and said they had disowned him. Hearing this from them, I felt a sense of relief. Anthony was now disowned by his parents, with no one to turn to, left alone. I decided to start anew. Every month, the compensation from Anthony was deposited, but one day, he showed up at my parents' house, asking to reduce the compensation.
Please, can you reduce the compensation?
No way.
Do you understand how I felt being cheated on? There's no reducing the compensation unless my feelings are healed.
Leave. I turned him away. Yet, he kept coming back, week after week, asking for a reduction.
The compensation won't change no matter how many times you come. If you keep this up, I'll call the police.
I responded calmly. But Anthony apparently didn't believe I would actually call the police. His demands eventually shifted from reducing the compensation to stopping payments entirely, even suggesting a condescending offer of reconciliation. When I started calling the police right in front of him, Anthony changed his demeanor and fled from the house. The police advised me not to open the door anymore and to install a monitor-equipped doorbell to use if I recognized him. Fearing the police, Anthony resorted to sending lengthy text messages and making phone calls. After changing my email and phone number, things finally quieted down. However, Anthony tried to visit the branch where I worked without any business, and even enlisted colleagues to try to contact me, becoming a nuisance at both the main and branch offices. Once, I received a message from Camila. Working close to Anthony's department at the headquarters, Camila had been keeping a close eye on Anthony's current situation. Anthony, having begged a colleague to reach out to me, had his divorce exposed, and his harassment became known due to being spotted near my house during his commute. Realizing no one was on his side, feeling uncomfortable under their gazes and attitudes, he voluntarily resigned from the company. Despite his job search efforts, he struggled to find employment. And, unfortunately, joined a company involved in illegal activities. Desperate, he pleaded with the HR department to rehire him. Having abandoned all his responsibilities for his own convenience, there was no place for Anthony upon his attempted return. He was swiftly turned down, and Anthony, lacking the courage to resign a second time, endured a harsh life of commuting with the first train and working unpaid overtime until the last train. On the other hand, Layla had reached out several times, wondering if there was any chance to reconcile. However, Daniel recognized there was no love left. Like Anthony, Layla had quit her job upon the scandal becoming known, hoping to escape the situation. Sometime after the divorce, fearing poverty, Layla pleaded with Daniel, unable to pay the divorce settlement, and asked for a chance to start over. Daniel, seeing her focus solely on money, realized her true intentions. Refusing to reconcile or reduce the settlement, Layla claimed she couldn't pay because she had no money, failing to contribute a cent. Daniel, undeterred, contacted her parents. They were unaware of the divorce. They hurriedly apologized and paid on her behalf. Layla thought this settled everything, but her parents, having only covered the costs temporarily, demanded repayment and were furious. Now, Layla works under strict conditions at her parents' farm, which they manage. Since then, Daniel and I have been in touch more frequently, sharing updates, how we've been, and the freshness of reconnecting after a long time brings a sense of family appreciation. Daniel continues to lead a busy life with work but seems to enjoy his days. It took me a while to recover. The shock of the affair and the loss of my married life brought stress. But support from family, bosses, seniors, and friends helped me view the experience positively. Now, without considering marriage, I'm enjoying my single life. Don't talk to me, I'm tired. Christopher coldly averted his eyes, pushed my shoulder as I stood in front of him, and walked away to the changing room. Wait. I tried to call out, but no voice came out. As Christopher's indifferent back disappeared, I felt dizzy and involuntarily knelt down. I can't believe this. He didn't even change a single expression on his face. I've been putting up with him for so long now. Maybe it's partly my fault. Maybe Christopher is just busy with work, I tried to convince myself, looking for reasons to justify his behavior. I believed that if I changed, Christopher would return to his old self. I thought I had done everything possible for that. But still, Christopher didn't change. That's why I resorted to the last option. I had resolved that this would truly be the end. I decided to get a divorce once and for all. It was then that I noticed a new message on Christopher's mobile phone on the table. I was shocked when I saw it without thinking. What the? Seeing that I vowed to myself. I had no choice but to brace myself. I'm going to show that man. I am Zoe, 26 years old. I recently married Christopher after dating him for about 3 years and moved out of my home. It's odd to say it myself, but being the youngest, I was doted on. So, on the day I left, my whole family cried. Be happy, Zoe. Christopher, please take care of Zoe. Of course, sir. Despite Dad's statement that seemed to pressure, Christopher answered with a relaxed smile. I'm really counting on you. There are 2 reasons why Dad emphasized this so much. The first reason is that Christopher has a history of divorce. Moreover, he ended his first marriage in just 6 months. The reason for the divorce was supposedly due to personality differences, but the brevity of the marriage was concerning. Dad had consented to the marriage, but had always been worried about that. I understand your feelings all too well as a man. So, today, I thought I'd make a clear statement. Christopher declared loudly and pulled out something he had brought. It was, astonishingly, a filled-out divorce application form. Though it may seem an aberrant act by common standards, Christopher said earnestly and handed something to Dad. If I can't make Zoe happy, please submit this. Continuing, Christopher added to the bewildered Dad. I apologize for causing worry to you all because of my divorce history. So, this is like an insurance. I won't need to use this. I'm determined to make her happy. Please accept it. Dad was perplexed, but took Christopher's earnestness to heart. He silently nodded and accepted it. This was the second reason for Dad's worry. Christopher was quite the charmer and an eccentric man. Understood.
I'll trust you.
Dad nodded with a complicated expression. Our married life began like this. Not to say it was a dream come true, but I was looking forward to our marriage. However, what awaited me, full of anticipation, was an unexpected hell. After quitting my job and becoming a housewife, I woke up earlier than Christopher every day, prepared everything, and saw him off with a smile.
Have a good day. Do your best.
Before we were married, Christopher would respond with a hug and a kiss.
I'm off. I'll do my best for you.
He would always sew and leave the house, waving his hand. But after marriage, Christopher changed. Yeah. With just that single word, Christopher would leave the house. His aloofness was so surprising that at first, I wondered if he was feeling unwell. Furthermore, when he returned home, Christopher was strange.
Welcome home. Would you like dinner? Or would you like to take a bath?
I greeted him with the usual line. To that, Christopher languidly replied, Bath. Just bath? Is something wrong? Confused, I couldn't help but ask, but Christopher just looked at me coldly for a moment and replied, Nothing. Thinking back, maybe getting any response was better than nothing. Now, a week into our marriage, Christopher has stopped responding altogether. When he's in a good mood, he might still react with a word or a gesture, but the problem is when he is in a bad mood. When Christopher is in a bad mood, he completely ignores me. Hey, don't ignore me. You've been like this ever since we got married. Did I do something wrong? Christopher didn't reply. Please say something. When I started to feel down and tears were about to fall, Christopher sighed heavily upon seeing this. You think crying solves everything, don't you? Must be nice being a woman, it's so easy. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't stop the tears. I silently looked down, the only thing I could do was hide my tears. Actually, my dad runs a company. I am what you would call a president's daughter. Before getting married, I worked as an office clerk at my dad's company. That's where I met Christopher. I, an office clerk, often handled the sales slips of Christopher, who was in sales. We gradually became close, and he asked me out. He seemed very surprised to learn I was the president's daughter, but that made me happy. He saw me not as the president's daughter, but for who I am personally. Back then, Christopher who would earnestly listen to my stories and respond with a smile. But that Christopher is long gone now. I wish I hadn't married him. Is there some reason for this? Did I do something wrong? I thought about it, but couldn't find any reason. The only thing that seemed to have caused Christopher to change so drastically was the marriage itself. Getting married, some people change due to relaxation or familiarity. I think that happens to some extent. But in Christopher's case, it was more than just to some extent. If I had known he was like this before marriage, I would never have married him. I took out a sheet of paper from a file I had kept in my desk. It was the divorce application form that Christopher had given me that day. If I submit this to the city hall, would the old Christopher come back? I spent days looking at the divorce application form and then putting it back. One day, when I returned from shopping, Christopher was standing in the doorway with a scary look on his face, waiting for me. It was the middle of a weekday. Why was he at home? Wondering, I tried to smile and spoke. Welcome home. Christopher slammed the table. Startled by the noise, I stumbled and fell. Christopher took a few steps closer, looked down at me coldly, and showed me the paper he was holding.
Do you know what this is?
In fear, I nodded. What Christopher held was the filled-out divorce application form. It was supposed to be always in the drawer, but why? Then I realized. Maybe I had looked at it before shopping, as usual, and forgot to put it back.
Do you want to divorce me?
Well, I couldn't say it wasn't true. Life with Christopher recently has been mentally exhausting. If this kind of life continues, I am considering divorce. It's because you've been strange since we got married. Lately, you ignore everything I say, and I can't call this happiness.
So it's my fault.
Then he stared at the divorce application form.
I'm fine with divorcing. What? But remember, in this case, Zoe, you're the one at fault. The problem lies with you, failing to support your husband as a wife.
Christopher waved the divorce application form. But Christopher, you said to Dad. He promised he would make me happy. Before I could finish, Christopher seemed to realize something and snorted. Promise to make you happy, huh? A typical princess way of thinking. How could you? You and your family are too naive. Clearly, our worlds are too different. It might be good for you to experience poverty for once. I didn't understand what Christopher meant, but from that day on, he stopped giving me any living expenses. Moreover, he even took away my credit card and debit cards. Originally, I quit my job because Christopher wanted me to.
I want you to greet me cheerfully when I come home,
Christopher said, and I became a housewife to fulfill his request. Now, as a housewife, I have no income. It seems Christopher was paying for the rent and utility bills, but the biggest problem was food. The food at home is almost gone. Please, I need living expenses. Although it was humiliating, I begged Christopher. Christopher seemed pleased and said something outrageous. Don't worry. I'll eat out.
What? Wait a minute.
No matter how much I pleaded, he completely ignored me, and I ended up not getting any living expenses. Christopher continued to come home late night after night. I managed to survive on the remaining food and instant meals, but I had reached my limit. On a rare day when Christopher came home on time, I finally voiced the thoughts that had been haunting me. You don't give me any money, and you don't talk to me. This isn't happiness, this isn't even a marriage. If this life continues, if you don't intend to change, please, let's get a divorce. I hoped that this might make Christopher change, even a little. If he didn't change at all, then I would give up. It was my last resort. I waited anxiously for Christopher's response. Christopher looked down and scratched his head, then spoke in a low voice. Don't talk to me, I'm tired. Christopher coldly averted his eyes, pushed my shoulder as I stood in front of him, and walked away to the changing room. Wait. I tried to call out, but no sound came out. As Christopher's indifferent back disappeared, I felt dizzy and involuntarily knelt down. I can't believe this. He didn't even change a single expression on his face. I had endured so much. Christopher had changed his attitude completely after marriage, and I wondered if it was partly my fault. Maybe it's because he's busy with work. I tried to convince myself, looking for reasons to justify his behavior. I believed that if I changed, Christopher would return to his old self. I thought I had done everything possible for that. But still, Christopher didn't change. That's why I had to take the final step. I had resolved that this would truly be the end. There was no sign of disturbance on Christopher's face. Normally, wouldn't someone panic a little if their spouse they loved asked for a divorce? Instead, Christopher looked terribly bothered. Seeing that face made it clear. Christopher no longer loved me.
Let's get a divorce, once and for all.
There's no point in continuing this marriage. I'm hungry, and I might as well pack my bags right now. I slowly stood up and headed towards the drawer where the divorce application form was kept. Then, I noticed the screen of Christopher's mobile phone on the table lighting up. It seemed like a message had arrived. I intended just to glance at it, but what I saw shocked me.
What the?
Displayed on the mobile phone was a screen full of heart emojis. I impulsively picked up the mobile phone to check the message. Thank you for yesterday. Let's spend another night together soon. The sender of the message was someone named Lily. I tried to remember, but I had no recollection of anyone named Lily. I checked towards the changing room. There was still no sign of Christopher coming up. Looking back at the mobile phone, it was carelessly left unlocked. I sighed. The more I looked, the more evidence of infidelity I found. The message exchanges alone confirmed the intimacy with Lily, but there were even pictures of them snuggling close together. Leaving such conclusive evidence without even locking the phone, how careless could one be? Or did he think it was okay to be found?
I'm being underestimated.
I became oddly calm. I recorded the mobile phone screen with my phone, keeping evidence of everything that might be relevant. After finishing, I placed the mobile phone back on the table, and Christopher came out of the bath. Without saying a word, and without any follow-up to earlier, Christopher retreated to his room. It was simple. Christopher was cheating. That's why he had been so distant. In my sorrow, I understood. From the next day, I started working towards divorcing Christopher. There was no more hesitation or confusion. All that was left was anger at being betrayed. First, I needed to find out who Lily was. Hiring a professional would be more reliable, so I decided to hire a detective. At the same time, I started my own investigation. Christopher's recent late work hours and weekend work seemed suspicious if he was cheating. I could quickly verify the facts with Dad's help. Though it pained me to worry him, there was no other choice. I needed to do what needed to be done. I'll show him hell. The hardest part during the divorce preparations was having to see Christopher's face even in such times. The face I once found dear now only brought up the desire to slap him. Maybe my disdain showed.
You're looking uglier than usual. Are you sick or something?
Christopher initiated a conversation. Couldn't he have found something nicer to say? I answered with a smile. I'm fine. Once the preparations were done, there would be no need to stay here any longer. Taking advantage of the weekend when Christopher went to work as usual, I decided to take action. I told everything to Dad, who was furious and immediately arranged a place for me to move. I had initially thought of returning to my parents' house, but my sister had just returned there for her childbirth. Considering the circumstances, staying at my parents' house was not an option. So, Dad arranged a mansion worth $1 million. It belonged to a relative who was about to put it up for sale. They weren't in a hurry to sell, so they let me stay there. Dad also gave me enough money for my immediate needs, so my life was back to normal. In fact, it became more comfortable.
Where the hell are you now?
The call from Christopher, full of surprise, came 3 days after I left the house. Who knows? So I replied, and Christopher's voice grew tense.
And the divorce papers are missing. Don't tell me you.
This surprised me too. He noticed the missing divorce papers quite quickly. Did he start searching frantically after realizing I was gone? This was the first time I've seen Christopher so flustered. Even through the phone, I could picture his panic, which made me laugh a little.
What about it? I've submitted them to the office.
When I answered calmly, Christopher made a strange noise.
What? Why?
You said, remember? If you can't make me happy, I should submit them.
You even declared it with a smug face. That was just to reassure Zoe's parents.
So he was panicking because I actually submitted the divorce papers, which he intended only as a performance?
And I told you before. If this kind of life continues, I want a divorce. That time I was just tired. I talked to Dad, and he said your department isn't that busy.
I cut off Christopher's attempt to blame his fatigue. He always claimed to be busy, returning home late and frequently worked on weekends. I never doubted him, just worried. But I should have questioned it. Was Christopher really going to work, or should I have investigated?
I found it odd, you know? I asked Dad when I saw him yesterday. He was puzzled too. Overtime is one thing, but weekend work should only happen a few times a year, so he was also wondering why. No, well... Hey, you weren't working, were you? What were you so busy with every week? Where were you going?
Christopher didn't respond. I knew it. He couldn't answer. In his mind, Christopher was probably scrambling for an excuse. He's smart and smooth-talking. But this time, nothing he said would matter. Because I already knew everything. Lily, right? She's quite the cutie. I could tell Christopher gasped over the phone.
How did you? Detectives are quite efficient. They secured photos and videos as evidence right away.
I looked over the photos and report in my hand, reading aloud. Lily.
A 22-year-old office worker in the accounting department. Oh, more than a decade younger than you. I'm 8 years younger too. Christopher seems to like younger women. Lives in an apartment near the downtown area, 2nd floor.
Wow, so you've been visiting her every week.
Zoe, wait, Lily is.
Christopher is quite the needy one. He used to cling to me a lot before we got married. Seeing Christopher, 8 years older, acting so needy made me happy back then, but now the mere thought disgusts me.
By the way, conversations with Lily are also safely recorded as evidence. Wait until I divorce my wife. What a classic line from a married man. Couldn't you come up with something better?
The detective also suggested that Christopher looked down on me quite a bit. Your wife will find out, you know.
It doesn't matter, she's on her way down anyway.
That's what he said. I was utterly underestimated.
Wait, Zoe. You're misunderstanding something. Can we meet just once?
I suppose.
I was thinking we should meet one last time.
The next night, we agreed to meet, with Lily accompanying him. The venue was the mansion I was renting. When Christopher arrived at the designated time, he seemed uneasy.
What's with this mansion?
It's a place I'm renting. It's worth $1 million.
$1 million?
Christopher's voice cracked, and Dad watched him intently.
So, your dad is here too?
Christopher's eyes darted nervously. Well, yes.
It's only fair since you brought Lily. Plus, this affair involves company employees. It's best to have Dad here, as he's the company's head.
I suppose you're right, Christopher said with a forced smile. Dad glared at Christopher the entire time. Lily, with her bright hair and petite frame, looked cute, but had a surprisingly strong personality. As soon as the discussion began, glaring at me, and she opened her mouth.
I'm a victim too. I had no idea Christopher was married. And now, I'm dragged here. It's unpleasant.
Lily's assertiveness surprised me. But Christopher looked even more shocked.
What? You were the one pushing me to leave my wife. That was just a joke.
Christopher turned red with anger at Lily's evasion.
Why did I even bother to have a relationship with such a woman?
I could hear him mutter. Lily snapped back, and they started arguing right in front of us.
To think I'd be serious about an old man like you. Excuse me? Who do you think caused all this? You said our company was doomed. That's why I decided to end it with Zoe.
Wait, what? Apparently, right after we got married, Lily had whispered to Christopher.
The company is on the verge of bankruptcy. As a husband, you'll end up suffering too.
Initially, Christopher didn't take her seriously, but Lily was persuasive, and he began to believe her. Seeing me act considerately towards him, he concluded the company must indeed be in trouble.
I thought you were sweet-talking me to saddle me with debts.
What?
I thought you were just tired. I found it odd that everyone was being overly kind to me.
Perhaps his boss and co-workers were being cautious because he married the president's daughter. But the idea that Dad's company was in crisis was a complete misunderstanding. Dad, being present during this conversation, also confirmed.
Thanks to everyone, we're actually thriving. There's absolutely no chance of going under anytime soon.
At Dad's words, Christopher fell to his knees.
I had a bad feeling, so what was all this for?
Ultimately, Christopher was just caught in Lily's scheme. Lily was intrigued by Christopher, who had married the president's daughter, and approached him out of curiosity. Initially ignored, she lied to catch his attention.
The company is finished. Being married to the president's daughter puts you at risk too.
Apparently, this lie worked on Christopher. Fearing a joint downfall with us, Christopher probably started ignoring me, hoping for an amicable divorce. I was just deceived, Zoe, you understand, right? Christopher approached me with a strained face.
Well, perhaps you were merely deceived.
Yes, I was, so let's not talk about divorce.
But this has made things very clear to me.
Christopher looked up at me, puzzled. Essentially, this man would be the first to flee if we were ever in the same predicament. And this time, he even cheated without consulting me about how business was going first. Moreover, instead of proposing divorce directly, he manipulated things so that it would seem like the suggestion came from me, which is the height of cowardice.
You know the vows, in sickness and in health. You would probably abandon me without hesitation if I fell ill.
No, I wouldn't do that, Zoe. Please listen.
There's nothing left to discuss. I just wanted to know why you were ignoring me. All this time, I thought I had done something wrong. Let's handle the rest through our lawyers. Lawyers?
Christopher's face went pale.
Having an affair while married, did you think there wouldn't be any consequences? I'll make sure both you, Lily, and you, Christopher, are properly charged for the divorce proceedings. Wait. If I can't even stay at the company, how can I afford the shorty for a divorce trial?
Christopher's voice trembled, and almost simultaneously, Lily also raised a panicked shout.
No way, that's ridiculous. It was all just a joke, and it's his fault for falling for it.
The two of them blamed each other, each insisting they were not at fault. The sight of that was so ugly it made me sick. Had I endured a month of agony for these people? How pathetic. To the arguing pair, I said with a smile.
Now I understand.
You two are perfect for each other. So alike. I made the right decision stepping back.
Well, we won't be seeing each other again.
Goodbye.
Wait, Zoe!
Dad put his arm around my shoulder protectively. We left them behind. Christopher kept calling my name from behind, but I ignored him thoroughly. Later, I received the surety for the divorce proceedings from both Christopher and Lily. Christopher, apparently having a decent amount of savings, paid it in one lump sum. Lily's payment came from her parents, also in a lump sum. And as for their places at the company,
we'll have to fire him.
I tried to calm Dad, who was furious, while pondering what to do, but eventually, the two of them couldn't stand the scrutiny and resigned on their own. I was relieved, but Dad was the one who was most relieved and happy about it. Christopher seemed to have been crying till the end because he couldn't let go of the past. If only he hadn't done what he did. Perhaps what Christopher really regretted was losing the title of being the president's son-in-law. The thought of never having to see his face again felt refreshing. Returning home as a divorcee, my family welcomed me warmly. I also returned to my job as an office clerk. I thought I might be treated delicately, but to my surprise, everyone welcomed me back warmly. Since it's over, I was always wondering why someone like you chose him. Someone said so, patting my back, which made me burst into laughter. If I ever get married again, I'll make sure to avoid someone who's only good on the outside.